Hello, everyone. We are back for another A Song of Ice and Fire live stream. Slightly smaller gap between this one and the last one. You know, it was once a year, and we've upgraded in terms of speed. I once again have Kyle to judge me for my new opinions and whether they are in the acceptable range of haterism and fandom. And for this one, we have Bookborn to tell us that A Feast for Crows is totally better than A Storm of Swords. And I will now let them introduce themselves in their own way.
Hello, I am Kyle. I've been on all of these. I sometimes have a YouTube channel, and my favorite thing about doing these streams is that I don't have to do any prep, unlike Bookborn, who just was scouring the wiki.
I wasn't scouring the wiki. I do like to give myself a little bit of a refresher.
That's fair. Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Sometimes the events blur for me, like because I haven't reread them. Like I can't always perfectly remember when an event happens. So
yeah, I have some trouble remembering when the events happen historically in these two books. Don't really have much trouble for Storm of Swords though. It's just some weird coincidence, I guess. You know, it's Storm. I didn't have notes. This one I do have notes.
I'm actually going to push back on that. I think people are more likely to get things in Clash of Kings and Storm of Swords mixed up than Feast and other books. Like that happens way more often.
I'm not, but that's just because I actually think when I reread them, I might have not reread Feast and Dance. I think the first time I read Feast, because I did read. I don't know.
I think the first time I read, I separated by location. It's just so much easier to like think of which book's which for most people.
Yeah, I guess that it's not that I mix up. Well, it's partially that I just didn't remember what happened to a very good degree at all. Like there's just a lot of stuff I forgot. So I couldn't be like, yes, I remember that happens in that book because that requires me to remember what happened. I get to a scene that I remember and be like,
at risk of giving Jake like ammo, I will say like every once in a while I am surprised at how much happens in Storm of Swords. Like I'll think of one of my favorite moments and I'm like, that couldn't have also happened in Storms because like everything happens in Storms. So
I can't believe it's been 3 years and you still say Storms.
It's Storms. If I'm going to shorten it, it's Storm of Swords. I've never said Storms of Swords, but it ends with the plural swords, so it's Storm.
Okay.
Sure, we can go with that. So I have this split up reasonably geographically. I guess we can have, so the backstory is, this is the one that had the most improvement for uptick on me for reread. I think I read this book when I was 15, and like 15-year-old me was like, didn't actively dislike this book, but liked it substantially less.
You haven't reread it since you were 15?
I think I reread it once. I think I reread it once when I was like 17. So I think it was like 50 and 17. So it's been a while.
No wonder you didn't appreciate it.
Yeah. So
he had John Gwynne brain.
I have some notes in here. Like early on, I'm like, credit. I will give 14-year-old me. He did go from like the end of Storm to like, okay, we start off with Pate, and then we have Aerion Greyjoy, and then we have Aereo Hota. And I can see 14-year-old me being frustrated by that after going like Tyrion, Jon, Sansa, etc. for the end of A Storm of Swords.
Counterpoint, I was 15 when I read straight through the series, so
I knew that, a little bit better than me. You get a special pass because you're like the ultimate Song of Ice and Fire fan.
Well, at the time, I was just like, these books are cool, and I just kept going. I don't think I actively... I really wish I remembered my like distinct thoughts of Feast versus Dance at the time, because like Dance wasn't out yet. But then Dance came out and I like just read it immediately. But I just remember being like, to me, it was just like a continuation of the story. Like I understand why it's jarring. Like now that I've lived more and talked to more human beings about books, and I'm like, oh yeah, it is very jarring to go from like the highs of Storm of Swords to then like half the characters, most of them not being popular, and like be more like thematic and character driven. Like I get why that's a struggle on first read, but for me, I was just like, give me more of the story. So
yeah. So I actually distinctly remember after the first few chapters and not having any like Jon or Tyrion, I was like, wait, what characters are like in this book? And like I checked what the point of views were, and like 14-year-old me's 15-year-old me's interpretation of that was, oh, George took all the characters people like and put them in one book, and all the other characters in this book, and I have to read this book to get to the ones I like. So anyways, 15-year-old me's haterism.
14-year-old you is wild because Jaime Lannister is in this book. Jamie fucking Lannister, as some people say.
And then the follow-up to that I think my head was, oh, I guess Jamie's here. But anyway, the good news is 15-year-old me was a fool. Sometimes an understandable fool. But you know, these are obviously the best characters in the book. But is there a plot we want to start with? So I didn't know how to split up, like put Jaime, because Jaime's kind of King's Landing. He's kind of Riverlands.
I would call him more Riverlands because I think he leaves fairly, or like I feel like most of his plot is Riverlands.
I think he has a couple like chapters early on that aren't the Riverlands, but it's kind of like a lot of those feel like it's more Cersei's story, and then he's doing more his own thing when he's in the Riverlands. I put one category that was way too big, and then I was like, I have too many people chapters in here, but I have it as Andal's Kingdoms, because I was just trying to exclude Dorne.
Look, before we get too far into this, I just have to yell at Ben, which is that the reason that Ben likes this book so much, which by the way, this is my second favorite in the series. So I love this book a ton. But the reason Ben likes it so much is because the show did not adapt it. So he had so much immersion when he was reading it because he didn't know what the fuck was going to happen. Okay. So like, Ben, shut up. Like, don't even start with this. Like, oh my God, it was just a masterpiece. I mean, it was a masterpiece, but for different reasons than you think. So that's my little spiel to Ben.
Do I get yelled at for this being my favorite too?
No, because, you know, as much as I love to find reasons to yell at you, you are reasonable, which is that you say, I actually think it makes sense that Storm of Swords is the best book in the series, but I like A Feast for Crows better because it has all my favorite stuff. And I'm like, that's reasonable. Ben's like, it's a conspiracy that people like A Storm of Swords. I don't see why they would like it. And I'm like, that is quite a take.
Yeah, it's just people going around. I only liked Storm of Swords the most because I expected to like Storm of Swords the most.
Exactly.
Ridiculous. Is there anywhere someone wants to start? I've got this split: Andal's Kingdoms, Ironborn,
I want to start
Dorne,
with the prologue, actually. Which is what do you think of the prologue?
Pate. So the prologue is like more cool after you read the last chapter, and you're like, "Hey, what's up, Pate?" I'd forgotten about that when I read it, so I was kind of like, "That was fun." I think it's. I mean, it's my least favorite of the first four, but that's not because it's bad. It's because the prologue is really good.
I mean, it's my least favorite of all of them, I think.
Yeah,
but
I guess I also, there's this weird thing going on where I read Dance with Dragons right away and have completed my Dance with Dragons reread, so I might reference stuff in Dance with Dragons, but whatever. Yeah, it's my least favorite of the prologue. I did have to double check that the dude who stabbed Pate was the Faceless Man. I was like, I'm pretty sure, I think it's that guy.
Yeah, when I first read it, I thought it was a faceless man. I didn't know it was the Faceless Man, if that makes sense. It was like, I don't know, is it the same person?
Yeah,
Could be. There's also a lot of them.
I'm definitely bad at picturing people's faces. So like some people,
I would have never picked up on that, like in a million years.
It's crazy to me that some people like read that description and are like, wait, that's the same description as the guy like after he changed his face in A Clash of Kings. Like I'm just not built like that.
I'm sure some people did. Like I fully believe some people did. I think most people went back and checked. Yeah. And then posted it on forums, and then other people just like took a bump.
But I mean, every once in a while, somebody has like a fixation. Like I remember, Kyle, you telling me you were surprised that I immediately recognized Dunk's shield that Brienne had. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, and I was like, well, that's so much of the plot. And you're like, it wasn't so much of the plot. And I like really like all of the descriptions of the banners. So it's something like I pay a lot of attention to.
For sure. Yeah.
Like I think it's possible, but yeah, I felt like I wasn't going to remember that either. There's no way. I just knew it was part of them.
I'm too busy trying to look for information.
That happens in this book, huh? The shield. It sure does.
Well, it's a brand chapter, so it does happen in this book. That is how that works. I'm too busy looking for information. It is funny that a lot of the scenes that I'm like, I distinctly remember this. I remembered them because they were useful in sorting out how good people were relatively at stabbing each other. So like I really distinctly remember. Oh no, that was dance. But the scenes where I'm like, yes, this is how good people are at sword fighting. Which maybe is not the most important stuff in the novel. Just maybe.
Maybe not.
But yeah, so I did write in my notes here, worst prologue of the 4, we are so back to hating. That is what I have in my notes.
Did you like? Obviously, you wouldn't have been able to catch it. Well, I guess it's technically possible. Do you know who his face
Alaris
is? Okay, yeah.
That's Sorella Sand. So I didn't figure that out, but yes, I'm aware that is a thing. Also, the scene where the old maester apparently keeps referring to Pate as Crescent was really good. So that line was cool. And also, George introduced glass candles and just made all the theories more crazy forever. If he had not done that, do you know how much less crazy the theories would be? I don't know how aware of Bookborn is of the crazy theories, but I imagine at this point it's...
She's gotten some, I feel.
Yeah. I've gotten some.
They get pretty wild.
I think the glass candles aren't the reason. I think the 15 years is the reason.
Well, there's a lot of reasons, but every once in a while, I'll just get to a line and I'll be like, hey, there's a line that caused 15 years of chaos. Like, there's one in the Dance with Dragons where, like, Lady Dustin is just like, oh, those maesters aren't trustworthy. And I'm just like,
man.
You did it now.
You caused lots of trouble with that line.
Yeah, like,
Lady
you
Dustin.
did it now.
In general, Lady Dustin's ability for like theory crafting in like 2 or 3 scenes is just phenomenal. Like, I'm like, that's just what he put her in there for.
Yeah, so Lady Dustin, that line caused roughly several thousand hours worth of content on the internet to, I don't know, a lot of hours of content on the internet to exist. Yeah, and then I just have written down the description of the guy so I could look for him again. But then I found out on the internet, someone mentioned in some like YouTube video was like, oh yeah, and then you find out he's like the face, and I was like, oh yeah.
Okay. So when you read this book, like now recently, you didn't remember that was who it was. Like you. Had
the first time, no, my reaction was not immediately like, oh, that was a faceless man. I was, before I started reading it, I had been deliberately like avoiding, for a while, spoilers for Feast and Dance. Like, for example, I didn't watch the real Jon Snow and the real Tyrion Lannister, like, Allscript X videos until, like, after I finished The Dance with Dragons this time. So those were fun. Those were in the background at work last week. Yeah. I mean, he's read Feast. This is, like, you know, sometimes I talk...
like, June 2023, like, fairly recently. But, like, it doesn't matter. Like, I could have deleted that version from my brain and I would still remember.
I haven't.
I have. Yeah. There's a couple combined readings. There's a bunch of lunacy people out there that just think that they pitched people. I saw in Bookborn's comments before she got to Feast, you should really do the combined order on first read. And that is complete and utter chaos. I would not recommend that to a single human being alive, even if I actually think the combined version is really, really interesting. Like, it's a very good reread project because you can see the thematics of what George is doing way clearer, and like you can even like partner like the timing of where people are in their arcs and how they like either are very similar or like are diverging, like with the Cersei and the Daenerys stuff especially, but also with Jon. But a lot of both of these books involve traveling, and so when you do this, there's like 400 pages in the middle where just everybody is traveling and nothing, there's no events, it's just traveling. And I'm like, this would kill a person that was reading this for the first time. Like, just insane. Like, so, but it is really interesting.
I will say so many people wanted me to do that. And that was crazy. And Kyle got really mad about it and was like in my chat being like, you cannot do this. And I was like, first of all, I would never, because I always do original format. But I will also never read it. And here's my reason.
You don't like ebooks.
Feast, well, I don't like ebooks. That is a reason. Feast is a perfect book for me. So like, why would I go reread and be like, let's make my experience worse? Because I love Feast. So I just don't see any purpose for me personally as a reader.
I'm not going to try to convince you to do it, but I would say like it would enhance your love for Feast with how much better, like you catch more thematic work in Feast by comparing it with Dance. So maybe on like Read 7, when you're like 50 or something.
But it'd still be an ebook. Will you print it out for me?
Maybe that'll be my slow project. I'll just write it out for
Bind
you,
it up.
handwritten
Get
for.
custom mining. Someone definitely has done that.
I'm sure they have. Yeah.
So I'm just actually going to bring this up, and I'm just going to ask now because it's in Sam 1. In the combined chapter, so Sam 1 is the only it's the only scene we get twice, like in the entire series, right? Do they do both, or do they pick one?
They do both. Scene? They're just back to back.
Okay.
So they just like they're just. I think there are like 2 or 3. Like I did a Ball of Beasts. I think there's like 3 or 4. There's Boiled Leather. I think there's one more. But I think all of them.
Ball of Beasts.
A Ball of Beasts is the name of the combined order.
I see. I hate that title.
But yeah, I think it's fine.
Who came up with that?
Some guy. I don't know.
Okay.
I like it more than Boiled Leather.
So I was kind of just like, well, when I read that I know this is Dance, but it's hard. Sometimes there's Dance things that relate to Feast. Like I wonder if in the original version, I think that was a John chapter in the original version. And then he was like, oh, I'm splitting this geographically. And then he was like, oh, well, it's going to be really weird to have Sam's first chapter being after that happened. And then he was like, oh, this is actually a good Sam chapter. What do you think of that? Do you agree?
I think when he was going to make it one book, it was probably a John chapter. No. I think it would have been a Sam chapter because then you keep the mystery of what's going on with Maester Aemond and the babies.
I agree.
And stuff. Yeah. I was trying to think of which inner monologue would have revealed that. It clearly would have been John. I think he would have kept the mystery of it being just, and then because Dance came out later, the readers are already going to know that. So then he could have John's POV from that. So that's what I think.
Yeah, because one thing that George does well is he doesn't break the laws of POV. So there's no way he could have had that John chapter and hidden things as easily as if it's a Sam.
I mean, he has plenty of people hide stuff all the time. He just doesn't. He does it smarter than idiot authors. Like he's a smart author. So.
Yeah, like he does it at one point in this book with
I'm not
Arya.
saying he never does it. I'm just saying
he does it.
I think that chapter
he doesn't break it there
sense.
because he has Arya going all like split identity thing. But so the reason I thought it was John is because I think if it was originally intended as a Sam chapter, I don't know if the John chapter in Dance would have existed. But like the reason to have it in Feast would be like it doesn't make sense to start with Sam 1 and like he's already just going to Bravos because you haven't read that John chapter. But then in Dance, it's like you could skip that scene, but it kind of is like, but if he already wrote that scene and had John, like that's where John thinks about the aim and kill the boy speech. And he's kind of like, wait, I gotta have that. So it's like, be weird to cut that out and put it in a different scene where it like doesn't fit as well.
I think it's probably moved around so much that like who knows? Like he probably first started writing that scene in like 2003. So
fair enough. But it is just an interesting thing of it's like the only scene we have from 2 perspectives. Which it's just kind of like
I agree
first
with
I was thinking about
David about the like Brienne said a word is withholding information. Like I think this is incredibly stupid. Like I also think this is dumb. I actually would have just preferred like Brienne spoke, like something like that, because like said a word. It's like, but what? Like I don't know. I agree with you, David.
I was like, it had been long enough since I reread it. I was like 97% sure Brienne wasn't dead, but I was like, this is the last Brienne chapter. Like to go, I'm like, there's no Brienne chapters in Dance, and obviously she shows up in Dance in the Jaime chapter, but I had like a 3% moment of like, wait, Brienne didn't just die, the show didn't do it, and I forgot about that, right? So that was fun.
My favorite thing about like that whole thing is people take like so there's so many like theories about the series and like who's dead and all this stuff, but then like some people just like take things very, very literal, like they've never read the series before. It's really weird. Like so there's some contingent of fans who like genuinely like, well, John's dead. Like, and that's just, they're just like, well, John's dead. Like, I don't know. And it's similar with Podrick. Like, people are like, well, Podrick's clearly dead. I'm like, no, like, Brienne, like, the context is that Brienne saved him, like, by yelling sword or whatever it is that she yelled. And they're like, but he was hanging. And I'm like, yeah, but they would just cut him down before he died. I don't know. There's just like a small but vocal portion of the fandom that's like so sure that Podrick's dead because they're like, he died in that chapter. And I'm like, he just didn't. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
But he could have. I'm kidding. It would, like, that is one of those where for John, it would be so funny if he actually was just dead. Like, it's obviously not going to be, but like, imagine Winds comes out and John is just dead. Like,
that would actually be nuts.
Like,
I would give George so much credit for that.
I don't know how much like Bookborn has the context. So obviously John comes back in the TV show, but like even before...
I do have context for this because it's one of those things that completely changed my reading of that chapter. Like that's one experience I feel like I didn't really experience as a book reader, because in my head it was like, well, I know John's alive. So it was just like, I got kind of grumpy about it because I was like, well, why is he pretending to kill someone? And people have to come and be like, no, there's going to probably be way more consequences because George is writing it. It's not going to be like the show where they just let him go on being normal. And I think that is true, because I will die on my deathbed screaming that Lady Stoneheart really isn't Catelyn. Like she is a, are you shaking your head because you disagree with me?
Yeah.
No.
We've talked about this. I disagree. I don't think we have enough information. I think we've seen her in such small amount of time. And like if Barek died 6 times and he's still mostly Barek, but just like with pieces of himself missing, I know Catelyn was dead longer, but we've only seen her in like 2 or 3 contexts where she's being very
vicious. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean I can't say anything about it. And the thing is, Lady Stoneheart does not act like Catelyn. She acts in the 12 seconds we've seen her on. Yes,
she's
I
like,
am the
Red Rum. That's all she does.
I am the Catelyn expert. I am the only one on this earth who can speak for Catelyn. And what I am saying is that Lady Stoneheart is a distillation of like the anger at what happened to her, and it is not actually Catelyn. Because
absolutely
Catelyn
could be correct. I'm merely saying you do not have enough information.
Catelyn would not talk to Brienne that way. That is not how she did.
I'm not saying she's not different. She's definitely different. I'm just saying I think that we have 3 scenes of her for like 30 seconds. She could also, what is she doing the rest of the time? Is she just sitting there being like Red Rum to the trees? Like, no,
yes, that's like literally what it is. No,
you don't know. You have no idea.
The way she talks to Brienne is so crazy and so different than she talks. I'm talking too loud. Is that what's happening? I'll move my microphone further away. It is so different than how she acts in any other scene that it is enough for me to know that something is off. I'm not saying she's like 100% a different person, but she's not Catelyn.
I think we get into some philosophy if we start going down that route, but I'll lay that. I actually want to know, I have no idea how I said, okay, so I think his name is Barrick. What did I say? Did I say Barrick last time? No, it was me.
Okay.
Anyway, they're making fun of my pronunciation.
So I'm going to note, we've determined that we're talking about the Brienne plot first. So my first note for the Brienne 7 chapter, where she talks to Lady Stoneheart, is, Kat, how much of you is still in there? And I think I am undecided. I'm like, so it's worth noting there's like the Barrack was revived 6 times and Catelyn was only revived once. They also weren't revived in the same way. Like it wasn't just the time it was dead. Barrack was revived by Thoros being like, Lord of Light, bring Catelyn back. Catelyn was allegedly revived by like Barrack pouring his life into Catelyn and died. Now, it's one of those things where it's like we hear Barrack is dead so often, and it's like we know he's not. But I think this time he is dead, and
I think he's gone.
I think it can work either way, where it's like this is Catelyn, and it was just like an incredibly traumatic, and she's like kind of like incredibly changed. I'm also open to the possibility that it just couldn't be described as Catelyn, because
I agree. So triggered by stuff that's happening in the chat section, so I need to talk again. First, I'm not saying it's not Catelyn. I'm saying it's a different version of Catelyn. I'm saying it is not the same person she was before she died. So it's not like,
I think that's reasonable. Yeah,
like Catelyn at all. It's just like something has happened. Her anger has been distilled, but in the process of bringing her back, something's not right.
Oh, for sure. Like I would agree with that, definitely.
Mitch is like, Brienne is hanging out with the Lannisters. Lady Stoneheart was justified in her Brienne treatment. Are we like, let's not rewrite history. Catelyn let Jaime Lannister go.
Yeah.
To save her daughters. So like, what are you talking about? Catelyn let Jaime go.
Hanging Brienne was absolutely
So, like,
unreasonable.
if
Like,
Brienne is
super unreasonable.
joining
like
with
extremely.
Jaime, if Brienne is joining with Jaime to find Sansa and Arya, pre-dead
I'm not saying Brienne should have been
Catelyn-
hung, but I am saying, you know, she looked sus in that moment. You know,
Yeah,
there's questions to be answered.
So I absolutely think, you know, Catelyn could be like suspicious, but ordering Brienne and her friends just put to death was absolutely not reasonable. Yeah,
and it's not
it was
Catelyn.
not justified.
It's just literally not Catelyn. It's not
Okay.
consistent with any decision she has made prior to this point.
Yeah, she's definitely been changed. Okay, but so you get into the philosophical ideas of like how much does a person change before that person, like the ship of Theseus of a person. Like Catelyn died and came back to life. That clearly changed her, and she like had a very traumatic event happen right before she died. But like Arya from book 1 to book 5 is very different. Now, like the decisions that Arya make in book 5, can you say that that's not Arya? Well, it's still Arya. It is a different version.
Full brain is there. Like I literally think a piece of her is missing versus like just a natural change in a human being. Like obviously we're all different after years and a lot of characters have gone through traumatic things. I think like something fundamentally changed because of the death, not just like in a natural way.
I think there's a good chance you're right. I'm merely talking about we've seen her for 30 seconds. Like we don't see how she interacts with other people. She could have blamed Brienne, like, you know, because
I don't need to see more time. Me and Catelyn, she speaks directly to me. I've actually
you understand that she let Jaime go, and one of the last things she's ever sees is Jaime Lannister sends his regards. So she thinks Jaime is the one that planned the death of her kids, and then Brienne's like, "No, Jaime gave me this sword." Like even being reasonable, even if she hadn't died, I think you'd be reasonably upset in that moment. So you know,
she's a good reason to be angry.
We don't have enough information, is what I'm saying.
I have enough information.
Lady Stoneheart sent the pink letter, and Lady Stoneheart is being controlled by Bloodraven. Moving on. So in the show, it's the Lannisters send the regards, and in the books, it's
dumbest change of all time.
Yeah, terrible change. The rest of the Red Wedding on the show is really good.
Okay, but there's plenty of Jaime Lannister changes in Feast for Crows that made me swear off the show. Like, for example, him not burning the letter.
I mean, there's a lot of dumber changes in this book. Like,
there's a lot of dumb. You like.
I mean, like, are we going to talk about Euron Greyjoy? Like, whatever.
Well, no, we got to stick with Brienne. Let's not hop in all over the place. So Brienne's arc. What did you think?
Well, it was pretty damn good. I definitely. I feel like we went out of order and started at the end. I've got notes for each chapter. Literally my note for chapter 1 is I spent this entire chapter being like, how has no one commented on her ridiculously ornate sword? And then being like, that is why no one is commenting on her ridiculously ornate sword. And I have a thing to give D&D credit for. I'm mostly going to be crapping on them for the rest of this episode and everything that comes up. There's one thing with Brienne where I'm like, this is not a character thing. This is in chapter 2. Brienne is like, one of the things that makes Brienne a badass and good at fighting is stamina. Like, she'll start a sword fight and it'll be like, we're doing okay, but she outlasts people and fighting is tiring. And in like every Brienne action scene in the show, for the first minute, she'll be like holding her own and then she does better and better. D&D read that line. I don't know if they read the rest of this book, but they saw that line on a wiki somewhere and they were like, okay, I will remember this as I am writing action
in
scenes.
any other situation, if someone told me that the creators of a highly successful franchise did not actually read one of the books in the series, I would say that is just a crazy conspiracy theory. And I understand if I'm putting on my reasonable hat, they probably did read it. But there's a lot of evidence that they like literally did not read Feast for Crows. Like they've said things in interviews where I'm like, did your dumb ass read this book? Like I just think you didn't read it. So
they read that line though.
I think Brian Cogman just told them what happened in Feast, and they're like, we're fine.
And Brian Cogman was like, okay, and the thing for Brienne is her specific biggest strength while dueling people is stamina. Remember that for every action.
Yeah, this is what I'm thinking about. They didn't know that Sam was a POV character.
Oh, that's legitimately crazy.
That's just like insane. Like I'm like, what?
What they
You're gonna say
did
that
is
on
they
main?
read about the reception for Feast for Crows, which I did before this live and got super riled up. And that reception says that people thought this book was a waste of time. And so they thought that that was true. And it's the biggest mistake they've ever made.
They saw 15-year-old me's comments and they were like,
Exactly.
oh, this is like a crossroads of Twilight
Exactly.
for A Song of Ice and Fire. It's actually all my fault.
Yeah.
Anyway,
knew I
Bran is
blamed you,
great.
Jake.
Bran is one of my
Yeah.
top 5 characters. So largely because of this book.
I mean, I don't know what other book would get her in the top 5.
She's pretty
Well,
good in book 3.
She's
and book
really
2.
good
She's
in
great.
book 3.
But I mean, top
Yeah.
5 is a really high bar. Like if someone after book 3 was like your top 5 characters and they were like Brienne, I'd be like,
she was in contention. I don't know, Kyle, remind me. Was she in contention for my top after Storms?
Yeah, because like I don't know, I don't think you had made like a top 5, but you definitely really like
Mhm.
she was one of your favorites, like all throughout the Jaime and Brienne arc, and then like because you kept talking about like when like Jaime's like I dreamed of you, and like that was like all the stuff you were super emotional about.
Because I basically predicted Jaime and Bran being friends very early on. Remember, because I specifically remember messaging you being like,
Yeah,
I really feel like Jaime and Bran should be best friends. And you were like, why do you say that? And I like wrote this long thing. And then later you're like, I just wanted to hear your justification because I knew it was going to happen. So I feel like I attached to her very early on.
Balon Swan is one of my favorite characters, and that's just ludicrous. It's like sometimes
yeah, but
like
he's
you
not
don't
your
need
top
a
5.
That's true. That's very true.
Like, come
I'm
on,
just saying,
man.
like people can like attach to characters.
Yeah,
Like,
if you were like he's in the top 5, I was about to be like Jaime, Tyrion, John, and I'd
no,
say
he's
two
not
other-
anywhere
yeah.
near the top 5. Like it's not.
Yeah,
even, it's not real.
I have a note about Randall Tarley, who's a dick, and then I'm like, but man, he probably did stop like a lot of people from being killed in the aftermath of
Randall
the rebels.
Tarley is a super interesting character that I think people don't talk about enough because he's literally the worst, but he's also like the best military commander in the series, and like the things that he does are like very logical in terms of like preventing chaos, but he's just the fucking worst. Like
Yeah,
so.
like he was doing probably the most to alleviate all of the post-war atrocities in Feast for Crows in the Riverlands, but he just sucks so much, man. Like in every scene. And I had a note about that. I had a note. Randall Tarley is not nice, although he's making the area safer. Then I now have one of the most reasons Brienne is a better person than me, which there are numerous.
Have we moved on from Brienne?
No, I'm about to say this is one a note I have. This is
Randall Tarley's in Brienne's chapters. But
no, I know, but then you just said he's going to talk about Bran.
No, sorry, I misspoke. Bran. Bran is not. There is not numerous reasons.
Bran. So I was like, wait, are we moving on?
Bran is both not in this book.
Surprise!
And
It's
not
actually a Dance with Dragons stream.
That's why I was so confused. I didn't understand what was happening.
So, Brienne has the 1v3, 2v3 against some of the people from the Brave Companions.
I really enjoyed this, David. I'm sorry, guys.
Craster is the worst parent, by the way, but whatever.
Craster is the worst parent.
Yeah, like he just is. But anyway, so Brienne has the really badass sword fight with the Brave Companions. I have a note I wrote down. George writes some good sword fights. Like he writes better fights than a lot of people primarily known for writing good fights. And Brienne like leaves Shagwell alive, and Brienne is like so sure Shagwell is gonna betray her. Like no shit. Like Shagwell, she's like, this dude, he gonna try and kill me. And if I was in that situation, that boy dying. Like I'm not gonna be like, I'm gonna be like, dude, like there's no shot. Like you've murdered 7, who knows how many people. You're definitely gonna try and kill me. Brienne was like, we will give him his chance to be an honest person who follows his oath, and waits for him to try to betray her, and then wrecks him and kills him, which was badass. But I would just like to shout out Brienne for that scene and giving other people a chance to have the values and integrity that she has.
Yeah. The show absolutely ruined Brienne, and like people like she just murdered. She's actually like vicious. Like she doesn't torture people, but she's very interested in causing pain to people that she doesn't like. And I'm like, I think you fundamentally misunderstood this character.
It
It's
is
like,
a fundamental understanding because there's a couple things about Brienne I love. And I actually just was randomly talking to Leanna about this because so often, what we were talking about for context is how so often when certain authors write period like fantasy or whatever that's happening like the 1500s or 1600s or whatever, and they write about a female character who bucks tradition, they often do it with such a girl power way, as if these women wouldn't constantly be questioning their role in society if they have been brought up in a very patriarchal society. There would be a lot of questioning about their place and why they wanted that. It wouldn't be like, I've always known I was better than everyone else and I didn't want this. And George nails that in Brienne's inner monologue so perfectly, because Brienne never questions that she wants to be a knight. She's always wanted to do this, but she constantly is questioning her worth in terms of the ideal she knows she should be. So her inner monologue is full of things about how she's ugly and how like that's a problem, and just like how she's not a lady, and the way she thinks and talks is just so, to me, makes her such a more fascinating, strong character, because she has both so much honor and like in a lot of ways, like self-respect for herself, while at the same time, just like so much self-loathing. And I feel like the contrast of that just makes her so fascinating. And then you can add on top of that, that her and Dunk are like two of the best good, wise knights in the series that are not knighted. And it's like, that's such an interesting commentary on like the social structure in Westeros that I feel like goes unnoticed. The end.
Love it. Totally agree.
I
Good
also
points
have
all
nothing
around.
to add to that.
I monologued. I'm sorry. You guys
Monologues are good. Actually,
I
this
I
is
monologue
the
all the
monologue.
time.
This is the take turns monologuing thing. That's why we're here. I should have just had the Brienne note separate. Okay, I have this is not a Brienne's character. This is just really funny. The amount of times Brienne almost finds a Stark child in this book. And I mean Storm as well, because she goes to the same inn that Arya shows up in 2 weeks later. But like, obviously there's she's gonna go to the Vale, and then she hears Lysa's dead, and it's like, well, I guess I won't go to the Vale. But the Titan's daughter is in port. And I had not noticed this the previous times, because obviously. But like, that's the ship Arya was on. And even more, after that, she's like, maybe I'll take this ship to White Harbor. Where, in White Harbor, like, maybe it wouldn't work out, but it's totally possible she could be like, yes, I'm looking at Icewar to find, like, the Stark children. And could end up being involved in people who are looking for Rickon.
I didn't consider that, but that's true. Yeah. She's
Like,
just getting close in all directions.
She, like, and I noticed before that, like, she almost found Arya and Sansa a bunch of times, but she also could have found Rickon, which would have actually been really wild. Like, that would have been, like, I'm pretty sure she'd treat it the same, but it's obviously not technically her oath to find Rickon, but I mean, like, that still counts.
Sorry, I don't know. Like,
she just shows up.
Stark.
She shows up at Lady Stoneheart, and she's like, "Look, I cannot find Arya. Okay, she's gone. Mofo be dead. But I do have Rickon. So like."
And Catelyn's like, no, I sent you to find my daughters. I don't love all my children the same. Oh. Do you think Bran actually would be apologetic? Like, I didn't fulfill your oath, but like, Rickon, consolation prize. And then the entire North would be like, no, give him back. He's also got a massive black wolf who won't shut up. Anyway, that chapter also has the Broken Man speech, so that was pretty cool. I guess.
Broken Man speech. That speech is so epic. Like there are literally more than a dozen times where I'll just be doing something. I'll be like, I should reread the Broken Man speech, doing nothing related to A Song of Ice and Fire, and I will just pull that speech up, and I will just read it. Also, I will like to note that so Bookborn was loving A Feast for Crows. Like whenever she was messaging me stuff, she was like, it was entirely positive. Or if it was negative, it was like Cersei sucks or something, but like, in a positive reading way. And then all of a sudden she was way further, and I was like, wait, where are you? And she told me where she was, and I was like, was there like a speech somewhere? Was there like a? And she's like, oh yeah, that speech was really good. I'm like, what? Like you're gonna not mention the Broken Man speech? Like she's like, Kyle, I can't respond to everything. I'm like, there's a couple things you could prioritize, like this speech perhaps. So
Yeah. It's true. I was hoping you wouldn't bring that up, but I should know that you're never going to forget that.
I was quite shocked.
I should say Feast for Crows was the book I read the quickest. So I think that
Yeah.
also is why. Like I read it really fast.
Did you read it the quickest per page or just the book in the least amount of days or both?
The book in the least amount of days.
Okay.
Like
we need the rate. Storm and Dance Storm is a lot longer. We need the pages per day, please.
Oh, I mean, I like it to me. I think
yada yada
rate-wise
Broken Man. Yeah, exactly.
was also yeah, I did yada yada Broken Man. No, I mean like per page. Like I think I finished it quicker pace wise than any other book. Like I couldn't put it down.
Okay.
So I just went through it a lot quicker.
While we're talking about the Brienne stuff, I will let you guys know that while 15-year-old Kyle wasn't a hater of this book, 15-year-old Kyle was a hater of a lot of the middle of these Brienne chapters. I was, you know what? I still am. I'll stand on business saying I don't give a shit about Nimble Dick. I have never cared about that sad, annoying man in my entire whole life. Read Feast 7 times, and each time I'm like, Nimble, I'm done with you. So all that stuff, but everything like once she starts getting like with, you know, like there's like Gendry and the kids, and then obviously No Chance, No Choice, the Broken Man speech. Like there was stuff I did really like the first time, but some of those chapters.
I do think Nimble
no
Dick.
No chance against 7, but no choice. I think I like cried. I don't know.
I'm going to now defend the existence of the character Nimble Dick. Who thought we would be here? So I do think Nimble Dick was an important part for Brienne, who was immensely mistrustful of Nimble Dick, and then kind of like he actually was playing it straight. Like bro was not dishonest, and I think it was important for Brienne to see people who made no like outward expectations of following the like knightly vows and morals be honorable and be straight and like not trying to scam her anyway, like who actually was was trying to help for money but was honestly going about this interaction. So he's maybe like a top 10 character in the series even. I'm just kidding.
I actually totally agree with you. I think that what he does for Brienne's character is very, very good. And like when she like stops to like eulogize him after he dies is a very, very good scene. I literally just hate him on the page. Like
I guess one problem for that
him being annoying
to be outwardly annoying and seem mistrustworthy for it to work. So it's kind of this weird spot where to serve the purpose thematically, he has to be annoying.
Yes.
Huh. Well,
what do you think about Nimble Dick, Bookborn?
Were you about to just call me Book as if that was my first name? Born was the last name.
I was gonna just do Book, and I was like, it doesn't work as a fake nickname. Like I have to say Bookborn.
You can add the S to the end, like she does for Storms.
Books. Yeah, hey, Books. What's up?
Hey, Books.
I don't know. It was all good. I was fine with all of it. I mean, was I like loving Nimble Dick on the cage? No. But I like Brienne, so it's just like whatever.
Who would win a trial by combat, Nimble Dick or Podrick Payne?
What?
Podrick Payne.
Yeah, Podrick Payne.
What was
also,
the
all the Podrick stuff.
It's not. It was who would win a trial by combat, Nimble Dick or Podrick Payne?
I thought we were saying we didn't like Podrick Payne, and I was like, wait, I like Podrick Payne.
Podrick is the guy.
Podrick,
yeah. Okay.
Everything with Podrick in this book is incredible. No notes. I have nothing. Like Podrick's my boy.
That's another one where Brandis like doesn't trust the person, and then we're like, it's Podrick.
Yeah.
And we make the pointing mode. Okay, there's more Brienne chapters.
We spent too long on Brienne for the length of this video. I feel like we have to go on to a different character.
Okay, that's fair.
Big with her?
But I'm going to just mention that George having, I forget who it was, but exposit the entire history of the name of that inn was the most George R. R. Martin thing that he has written. There's a scene in a brand chapter where George is just like, one of the characters is like, well, that name used to be this, but then this caused it, so the name got changed to this, and then it became named this, and the end has had like 20 different names. And I was like, if we could concentrate the essence of this page, that is the essence of George R. R. Martin. Okay.
No food was involved.
Well, it's an inn that makes food.
We do have to talk about the Gravedigger. Like we can't. Not.
Okay, so I don't want the Hound to do anything for the rest of the series. I want him to retire and dig graves.
Oh, I disagree with you entirely.
Okay.
I am Clegane Bowl guy number 1. Get hype.
Okay.
I'm not about this retiring into the sunset bullshit. He's got to come fight Gregor. It's so set up perfectly. Like, the thing is that the reason it happened in the show is because of fan service, and it happened in the show because of fan service because D&D don't have good storytelling skills, and so they were just like, what do the people want? And they're like, Clegane Bowl, and so then they did it, and like, I mean, it was epic, but like everything leading up to that is dumb. But like, I'm like, I want this done by the person who actually knows how to make this thematic, like, and good. So we got to get it.
I'm cool for him to retire. I think he seems to have a bum leg now. I think he just loses to Gregor anyway. I think it's the Hound is dead. He's Sandor Clegane now. Sandor Clegane might not be as interested in the violence. He's a new man. He's digging graves. He's taking a vow of silence, and I'm happy. I want him to stay retired, and everyone can believe the Hound is dead.
What do you think, Bookborn, or Books, as I like to call you?
First of all, it should be stated that I did not recognize the Gravedigger was Sandor.
I knew he was going into this. I didn't recognize him before. I think I might have.
I want to come clean. Once Kyle told me, I was like, "Wow, that is really obvious." Like, he's
I just
at
don't think that it
now.
is. Like, it's very obvious when you know. Like, I just don't think it is actually very obvious.
Well, I mean, the guy does say, like, the Hound is dead.
I don't know. Okay, no. Look, here's the thing. He didn't tell me before it happened. He told me after.
Yeah.
I feel like people are getting mad at you like you spoiled it for me. No, it was like I got way past it, and Kyle was like, "By the way." So I don't know. There's no better time you could have told me.
Oh, no. Britain's getting mad that I don't like stupid City of Thieves. He's not talking about you.
Oh, okay, great. I thought he was getting mad anyway. So I actually am going to say something stupid, which is like I could see both making me happy. Like if Sandor is like retired, I think that's a very like satisfying and like interesting thing to do with his character. But also, if he wants to go fight the mountain, also something I would be very interested in seeing. So like, to me, that's a very open-ended character where like I'm not sure what George had planned, but I'd kind of be down for either, I feel like.
Well, George did say in an interview at some point back when he was a little bit more okay with saying like future stuff, is that he was really excited to finish the Hound's arc, or like Sandor's arc. So he does have things planned for him. He said that I think it was after Feast came out, but it might have been after Storm came out. But regardless, he has said that he looks forward to finishing his arc. So he does have something planned for him.
And it wouldn't even have to end necessarily with him going head to head with his brother. Like, I feel like there's a lot of stuff with the Hound, like either with Arya or like just other people that could satisfactorily like wrap him up for me.
I think if he is coming back into the narrative, something has to happen with his brother. It's so much of his hatred and anger.
True.
Like, he doesn't have to literally fight him. Like, I would be okay with like,
but something has to be resolved.
Yeah, there has to be something there. If he is coming back into the narrative, but also I really want him to like fight Gregor to like defend Sansa or something.
All right, I'm gonna. A lot of I think the last 2 books is people being very engaged in vengeance and probably taking it too far. Like Lady Stoneheart is a very good example of this, where it's like, okay, reasonable to want vengeance, but she's taking vengeance by just like killing everyone vaguely associated with the Lannisters, seemingly, or the Freys. And I think it would be cool for the Hound, who may have the biggest grudge in A Song of Ice and Fire. Like, if one dude in A Song of Ice and Fire has a grudge, Gregor's like, hatred for the mountain has a case. And him being the person who's able to be like, no, the Hound is dead, as the person says. Like, and this is the person who, like, fought on the Trident and I think described and said, like, he was a broken man and has now moved on. So that being said, I'm sure if George released Winds and Dreams of Spring and Clegane Bowl happened, I will read it and be like, that was cool. But I personally think like I would be like I'd be more skeptical going into it compared to just being like the Hound story is done, and I think his arc works.
I think it's
Also, the mountain's dead.
unsatisfying.
Robert Strong is not the mountain. The mountain is dead.
But it's the visual of it. It's not.
Yeah.
It's the thematic. He's fighting his brother. Like it's not. It doesn't have to literally be. But I agree. I think him to just be like the gravedigger that like okay, so we have a fandom that like dissects every line for 15 years, but like if Sandor's last thing is like an unconfirmed, he's actually just like isn't how Martin works. Like Martin said in the first book that like some guy named Angway, I don't know how to say this guy's name actually, so people can make fun of me. Won the archery thing and then disappeared, and then in the third book he's like, oh, actually he joined the brother. Like he thinks that through every little like tiny minor character. He would just not be like Sandor is just gonna maybe be this gravedigger and never confirm it. So like,
I'd be cool for him to show up in a scene again, but I'm just kind of like, especially since it seems like a lot of these last two books, the people who are being very obsessed with vengeance are people who are taking it so far.
I do like that thematic.
For the Hound to be like still obsessed with vengeance once the mountain is dead, and like he's killing just the body of the mountain, which is also dead, and is controlled by like probably not the mountain soul. Like it's probably not Gregor in there. Unless you believe the theory that Robert Strong is just a new guy, which is a hilarious theory, by the way.
You guys went over that one with me for sure.
It's not, I don't know if it's just like, I think it's a joke theory of just like, how funny would it be if Robert Strong was just some 8 foot tall, 400-pound jack dude who showed up, who was super loyal to Cersei and didn't talk. It'd be really dumb, but
we should move on though. Like it's been like an hour.
Let's talk about Dorne.
What do you want to talk about next, Bookborn?
Well, I just wanted to briefly say something to somebody who made a comment like an hour ago about was Cersei smarter in the show? Because they were saying she's dumb in the book. And that was actually my favorite part because I specifically remember messaging you, Kyle, after the first Cersei chapter, just agog at her inner workings. Like, I don't know if you remember, I texted you being like, Cersei's an idiot. Like this whole time I thought she was brilliant. And then I read this first chapter and it's like, oh my gosh, she is like, she's not this mastermind. And it's just one of those things like, I don't know how you would do that in a show. It's one of my favorite things about A Song of Ice and Fire is when you...
Cersei is a girl boss, but an evil girl boss the whole time. She just, if this is a wine glass, this is Cersei for the last 3 seasons.
Even if it was perfect, I'm just saying doing that kind of thing is just,
evil.
In my opinion, harder in film and TV because when you read, you get to see other people's POVs versus inner workings. It's one of my favorite things about A Song of Ice and Fire because your opinion changes so drastically on people based on how other people see them versus their inner workings.
The correct way, or maybe not the correct, the better way to do it in the show would have been to lean into her being more erratic because of losing her son and her dad. Like not being like literally just like a dumber IQ individual, but just getting crazier and crazier because of it, which is also what's happening in the book. She just also has like a lower IQ than she thinks that she does.
Well, yeah, she just thinks she's smarter than she is. And I will say, like, of the stuff you sent me, because they're saying like Lena Headey's, whatever her name is, like she does nail it in terms of expression. Like anytime I'm watching her on screen, she's incredible. So it's not like that she did a bad job. It is such a cool experience in the book to just be like, wow, you are so paranoid. And anything that seemed intelligent was really kind of more luck. And like,
I will say, so one side note, there's a scene where Littlefinger's plan has been like, he's like, yeah, Cersei's really destroying the kingdom way faster than I thought she would. And that was hilarious. But I do think, and Jamie says this, and I think Jamie is right. I know it's like IQ points is what we bring up. And Cersei's a disaster, but I think her failings are not directly like connected to lack of cleverness. Like she can do things that's clever. She just has a complete lack of patience and is completely impulsive and is completely paranoid. So anything she does that's clever, she will then sabotage in the long term.
You're missing one important thing because I think you're right in some ways. It's that she's completely self-absorbed. Yeah. So the issue that I always said the big difference between her and Jamie is that Jamie understands people. Like he can think outside himself. So he can understand how other people are going to react to things. And in fact, I think it's in this book, it is for sure, where they're talking. He's trying to give her advice on what to do, and you know it's right because he understands how people think, but she can only think of how she feels about something.
Yeah, she's totally she's narcissist as well. And again, I don't think that I think if you gave her an IQ test, I think she would probably do fine in terms of just
I just don't agree.
Problem solving. Not well, but I don't think she'd be actively.
I don't think she's like a dunce, but she's not smart, and she thinks she's a genius. That's the big. The disparity is the main problem.
Yeah, it's the disparity, the lack of patience.
She's like an average intelligence person.
But yeah, I just wanted to in terms of IQ, I don't think she's actively it's not like her brain can't put things together. It's just her perspective is so warped that she can't even get the premises. So this actually, who it reminded me of? This is a Wheel of Time character who's way smarter than Cersei, but it reminded me of Podon Fane, who every time you're not Podon Fane, Padrion Njal, the white cloak dude, who every time you're in his head, he's way smarter than Cersei, and he thinks things through pretty logically, but all his premises are totally wrong. So he comes up with this internally consistent theory, but it's just all his premises are wrong. So he comes to completely wildly incorrect conclusions all the time. Now
there's a lot of wildly incorrect conclusions happening in your comment section right now. I just want to call that out. I disagree with everything everyone's saying.
So while you guys have been talking, I have been trying to think of a clever thing that Cersei does, and I'm sure there's something you could argue is clever, and I just think it's clever accidentally. I don't all of her plans aren't very clever.
I have a direct example, and it's partially, I thought it was a bigger example because I was wrong about something, but I think it still kind of works. When Cersei first gets she obviously put out the thing of anyone who kills Tyrion becomes a lord, wants to kill Tyrion. The first person brings the head of someone who is obviously not Tyrion, and she thinks to herself that if she is mean to this person, that will disincentivize people from killing Tyrion. Which isn't brilliant to figure out, but it is she is aware of that and figures that out. And then later, more people bring her evidence of that, and she's just impatient and sick of them and sends them to Qyburn. Now, I thought this was really funny because when I read this, I did not remember the Tyrion plot at that point, and I thought one of the people they had info on was Tyrion, which I maintain would have been really funny. And then Cersei's obviously none of those people are Tyrion. Go to Qyburn. Go get tortured to death. But the first time when she's not extremely angry, she is able to do basic, not stupid things. And I'm not saying she's smart. I just think
you started this conversation with she actually is clever, and
I mean sometimes
supported this premise. I don't think ever.
I mean, I think there's evidence that sometimes she can do things right, and one of my biggest evidence actually is just that she recognized that they shouldn't kill Ned Stark, because as chaotic and power hungry she is, even she knew that was a mistake. So
that's more how dumb Joffrey was being because he's 12. Well,
I know, but I'm just saying, you would think because she sometimes can be erratic, she does have a fundamental understanding of some things. She's not. I think she's dumb because I had built her up in my head that she was some brilliant, conniving person, and then when you get in your head, you're just oh boy.
I'm differentiating clever and smart. I don't think she's very smart. She's average, like we said. Because the idea of not killing Ned because it will cost. That's just consequences of basic 1, 2, 3 of living in her world and what the consequences of that would be. But I can't think of Tyrion does clever things, going to Pycelle, Littlefinger, and Varys and doing different stories to see who the rat was. That's clever. That's not intelligence. It is, but it's a specific genre. It's crafty. And I don't think Cersei thinks she's crafty, and I just don't think she is.
Sending Loras to attack Dragonstone was reasonably clever. If you accept the premise that
she
she's
just
trying
agreed
to sabotage
to let him do it. Yeah, she just agreed to let him do it, though.
She does, she sets it up as we can only use the fleet if the fleet is freed from besieging Dragonstone. So, we'd have to send Sir Loras to take Dragonstone. And it's
I will accept this as being reasonably clever.
Probably, Loras is not nearly as nefarious as she thinks he is, and it's one of the more useful Kingsguard at defending her son. So it's probably not smart in the long run. But if you accept the premise that it's in her best interest to try and get Loris killed without being like directly seen as legally culpable, then that's a pretty clever way.
I will accept this as one clever thing she did.
Anyway, she's hilarious.
It's hilarious.
I have most of my notes on Cersei is just being hilarious. I have one note on Qyburn because I think this was Qyburn's diabolical. So like Qyburn's
Oh my
diabolical.
god, you coughed right when I wrote cough.
I've been coughing the whole time, guys.
I've been coughing
still
too.
not gone.
I
I've
still have
been
the back
trying
of a cold.
Qyburn.
Yeah, like he's diabolical in the show, but he says this line, and I was just like, okay. I wish this is when he's first going into Cersei's service, and she's like, "Why did you get kicked from the Citadel?" And he's like, "I wish to understand the nature of death, so I opened the bodies of the living. For that crime, the Grey Sheep shamed me and forced me into exile." Now, normally when people use the figure of speech of like, "And for that crime, they did this," it's something like, "For the crime of not lying, I did this." And it's like, yes, Qyburn, that crime is called first-degree murder. Like, how did he actually just not get executed is what I want to know. Like, did he have to run? Like, it was like, for the crime of 57 counts of first-degree murder, they exiled me from the Citadel. Like, bro, you're a serial killer.
I've never thought of this. This is so true.
Anyway.
Dude's just Jack the Ripper.
Also, by the way, a difference between Qyburn, who's also evil in the show, but Qyburn in the show has this thing where he's like, yeah, I was experimenting on the living to like learn medicine. And it seems like here he mostly experimented on the living to like learn necromancy, which is like, you know, both are not morally acceptable. This is much less morally acceptable.
They couldn't do that in the show because they didn't want magic to exist, from what I've heard.
But then he still brings the mountain back. Whatever.
Yeah. And there's no, it can't just be a guy. That is Hafthor Bjornsson or whatever.
That's just Robert Strong, Kyle. It's a new guy.
They don't even try the Robert Strong thing in the show. There's like, it's just Gregor, with a green face.
But also I have this random person where if we get Winds and Dream, you know how like, you know, you presumably first noticed Balon Swan was cool when you're like, Tyrion thinks he's cool and Jaime thinks he's cool. I'm looking out for Mathis Rowan to do anything cool.
I love Mathis Rowan. Okay, so I have lots of thoughts about this.
Of course, you're like, yeah, I love this guy. Yeah, this is the most Kyle. This is the essence of Kyle. This moment.
So no. This guy. Okay, so this guy's really cool. So all right, so he's one of the only people in the Tyrell army that I think is like really cool. He is part of the siege with Stannis, but like isn't like Randall's in charge with Mace Tyrell, and Mathis Rowan is just there. He's nice to Catelyn when Catelyn shows up at the the tent with the Boys of Summer speech and stuff like that, and Catelyn thinks nicely of him. And John Connington in Dance with Dragons is like, we have friends in the Reach, like we have, you know, people haven't forgotten us, and people really think that is either Mathis Rowan or Lady Oakheart, like Aerys's mom, because they are the only two people that don't capitulate with because Renly dies and then they all go to Stannis, and then Stannis. Then they all go to Joffrey, but those two just like are like, nah, we chose Renly and we're not interested in Stannis, so they just don't join with like Loras and them. And so yeah, I've always thought this guy's really cool, and I think he is going to join with John Connington and wreck some shit in the Reach.
That being said, siding with Renly, Baratheon, and John Connington are not massive points in his favor. Like it's not. They're not my favorite.
No. Well, but yeah, they're not my favorite people either.
They're consistent.
I'm talking about him. Those were two separate thoughts of the overall. This is what I think he's going to impact the plot.
I'm just like point against him that he sided with Renly, and it's like cool that you were consistent.
I don't think it's Randall Tarley because Randall is too straightforward. I do think Randall will like be like, oh, this is Aegon's son or Rhaegar's son, and I'm going to join them. But I think he'll do that when they're there. I don't think he will. Like, I don't think he's the
Alright.
rat. That's not a Randall Tarley
I
thing.
know this is technically dance, but I have to bring this up because I have a random one for dance where I was like, I shall now watch out for this person and they do cool things. And I just want to see if I say them and you're like, yes, I am also excited to see what that person does. I have to find them in my notes. So it's from Barristan's perspective, and it's one of the knights he's trying to make, and he says Tumco
The Red
Low,
Lamb?
the
Tuco
best
Low.
natural. He calls him the best natural swordsman Selmy had seen since Jaime Lannister. So I'm looking out for him to do cool things. Those are the two random side characters I wrote down. I'm looking for them to do cool things.
Yeah, that's a big up on him. I actually think Barristan's knights will play some sort of like, I don't think they're going to be like main characters or something like that, but I think whatever they do,
POV.
we're losing Bookborn with all these like minor characters she doesn't remember. Like she barely remembers Kevin Lannister. So like,
okay, whoa, that's actually really offensive. Kevin Lannister is one of my favorite side characters, Kyle.
That's why I said him. I know that was a reference.
I know. I actually was just I got lost there. I was just thinking about other stuff in Feast, to be perfectly frank.
That's fair.
I was like, oh yeah, I remember how good that was.
There's most minor characters in the series I can go on a monologue about. So
I will say I knew who you were talking about, and I knew the grand overarching things you were talking about. I maybe just didn't know the minutia of what you were talking about.
That's okay. You don't have to. It's totally fine.
The April Fool's tier list video that Kyle needs to do is a tier list of A Song of Ice and Fire characters, but it's all super minor characters, and it's like a 4-hour video.
I could do it.
Yeah.
You know what? Actually, okay, no, we're on the Cersei plot. I have to talk real quick about my boy, Orain Waters. Orain.
Oh, he's so funny.
Love him to death. Okay, so this dude, I love that he's just like, he for sure is like, she's an idiot. I'm gonna attach myself to her. Like, he is the biggest grifter, but like also seems really cool. He's like, a Valerian bastard, which like has more meaning to me after reading, Fire and Blood and stuff, because the Valerians have done jack shit in the main series. So now he's a Valerian, and I'm like, yeah, get your name back, buddy. And then he just pieces out with all of the ships, and I'm like, let's go. And then in the sample chapter from Winds,
he gets mentioned with the warships
as Lord Waters. Yeah, and
I reread the sample chapters, by the way. Yeah,
I'm really excited for him to show up in Winds.
He's hilarious. And I mean, Cersei thinking to her, I have a note on here about this. Ready? 1 second. It's Cersei's thinking about how great she is and how she doesn't need a hand who can do anything, because like only weak rulers need a useful hand. And then she spends the entire small council meeting thinking about how hot Orain Waters is. And I'm just like, leadership. Intelligence. She's such a fuck up. It's actually one time she calls someone stupid and she's right. One time someone comes back and they like, we did this, and it's like
the shit that Felice Stokeworth and Alvin Birch did.
She's like, kill Bronn. Okay, and it was dumb to get people who have no business assassinating people to try and kill Bronn. But then they're back, and their assassination plot was to challenge Bronn to single combat.
Yeah, just terrible. I'm like, why would you do this?
Now,
and then
I'm not
tortured.
Yeah, like it was not morally acceptable to send her to Qyburn. But of all the people Cersei sent to Qyburn, that's the one where I'm like, I see the thought process. Oh, that was such
Jake
a bad
is pro-torture. You guys heard it here first.
It was very bad. It actually, so I'd forgotten how messed up the Qyburn stuff is. And the amount of people she sends to Qyburn, like every time it's just like, she'll just like send him to Qyburn. And I'm like, man, that's like.
She sends her maids for spying and for shrinking her clothes.
Yes.
I was just about to say, we haven't talked about the best scene, which is when she yells at them for shrinking her clothes purposely.
She just yells them. She sends them to Qyburn.
And I should say that I originally thought that meant Cersei was pregnant. And then it was later pointed out to me that she's just turning into Robert. But I still think Cersei being secretly pregnant would have been hilarious by someone other than Jaime.
There's like that's like a theory that she's pregnant.
Is it a theory?
Yeah. And they actually do that in the show. They make her pregnant for nothing. And then nothing comes of it. She dies from rocks. So
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She also, by the way, gets pregnant and then eventually marries Euron. And then like 5 months later, marries Euron and then tells Euron, like, yes, this is your child. Like, I think he might figure that out when the child is born in 4 months. Like, whatever.
Euron Greyjoy is the worst character in that show. Like, it's not even close.
Yeah, and I learned recently that the actor was one of the few actors who's like a big A Song of Ice and Fire fan and got cast for Euron and was like stoked to play Euron. And then it's like drunk, horny pirate. Okay. I don't know if you're aware.
I will say,
Euron
I was
stuff.
looking. Okay, so I was looking up clips.
I am aware against my will.
Yeah,
I showed her a scene. I was looking
you
up
can guess
clips.
what scene he showed
yes, I
me.
can.
Actually, to defend myself slightly, I thought I was showing her a different scene, and I sent it to her before I finished watching the scene again, and I sent it to her, and then at the end he's like, a finger in the bum, and I'm like, oh no, it is this scene. So, I was looking up clips for Bookborn for like one of her like reaction videos, and there's a scene, and I guess I'm just gonna accidentally spoil this part, but it's fine. There's a scene where like some stuff's going on, and it's like crazy, and Euron just literally gets up, and he's like, I'm going back to my island. And everybody's like, what? And he's like, the dead don't swim. I'm out of here.
We moved on to the Ironborn. I know Bookborn has not watched the show, and I won't spend too much time complaining about the show, but I think this is
You can
funny.
do whatever you want.
So the King's Moot happens, and the first person to speak is Gilbert Farwind. And Gilbert Farwind says that we shall build 1,000 ships. And he is the deliberately, completely crazy person, because how are the Ironborn going to just build 1,000 ships? Do you want to guess what happens in the show, Bookborn?
What happens in the show?
Euron becomes king, and he declares at the end of season, sometime in like I think the end, late season 6, he says, "We shall build 1,000 ships, and I shall give you the world." And you know what they have at the start of season 7? They have 1,000 ships. Mm-hmm. So
Euron just kind of forgot about
like
wood.
The fact that the 1,000 ships, no, I thought they just pulled that out of their ass. The fact that that came up as the deliberately stupid suggestion, so we could be like, oh, this is the type of person who declares themselves for the King's Moot first. The type of person who's like, we shall build 1,000 ships.
I will say, okay, so if we're thinking about this logistic, like the Ironborn world building doesn't make any sense. They already have 1,000 ships, which is the Iron Fleet, and it's like it's not possible with the amount of they don't have wood. Like it's just not like how do they do this?
Yeah.
How do they sustain a culture by just raiding coastal villages? Like nothing about it makes any sense. Their population demographics don't make any sense. You just have to let George just
all right.
cook.
I know that is true. But in fairness to George, I'm pretty sure he did not have them build those 1,000 ships overnight.
Yes. I mean, the show's dumber, of course. Mitch wants you to talk about Tanya Mayweather.
Yeah, here's the thing. I knew she was a grifter immediately.
Yeah.
She's a spy. It's so obvious.
Whose spy is she?
I don't know.
So this is all right. So I'm gonna.
Does it matter? I just know she's sus. I think that's what I texted Kyle. I think I just said she's
a couple
sus.
times. You're like she's sus.
She is indeed sus. I mean, yeah. You basically the problem is if you act trustworthy, Cersei will not trust. Like the only way to if you are trusted by Cersei, you actually have to be sus, because
the counter proposal is actually legitimately Balon Swan, who she trusts. Simply because everybody in Westeros is like, this guy's trustworthy.
Fair enough. Okay, so I'm going to do a pivot to Dorne. Because
you didn't even talk about the Ironborn, but okay, I'm okay with that.
I know. Well, you know what, the Ironborn, I just one of the things that the people waiting 15 years have the highest degree of disagreement about is how smart Doran Martell is. Like if you ask 1,000 A Song of Ice and Fire fans, some people will be like, that man he's just going to get everyone killed. He's not doing shit. And then some people are like, Doran Martell is actually the most important character in A Song of Ice and Fire, and he's behind everything. And my pivot from Tana is it's like, who spies Tana? I don't think Tana is Doran Martell's spy, but he has a spy because he has some reasonably up-to-date information. Yeah. And I was like, I I wonder who his spy is. And like, it could be Tana, but he's got someone. And like, George knows who his spy is. So I'm going to ask you, Kyle, who's Doran Martell's spy?
So the thing is that I've read so many theories about who spy is. All like a lot of things could be plausible. I really think like sometimes a horse is a horse, and I think Tanya Mayweather is most likely a spy for the Tyrells. Like that just seems the most likely option. But if she is Doran's spy, like I don't think that's unreasonable. I think Doran's spy is like most likely one of the like random like people in her court that just like they can be named, but I just like there's lots of them that just don't matter. Like one of the people that are romancing the Tyrell cousins or something. There's that like random sellsword guy who like all the girls are like interested in that Cersei wants to like get to teach Tommen to fight, but then she's like jealous because she's like he gets too much attention. Like I just feel like it's probably somebody like that as opposed to like somebody that's directly involved with Cersei. But
so actually, I'll just ask you guys, how smart is Doran Martell? Bookborn, what is your opinion of this? Have you thought about how the relative intelligence of Doran Martell?
I really haven't thought about the relative intelligence of him, but I guess I don't think he's stupid. Like, I never got that impression.
Yeah, it's kind of like
I don't think he's masterminding everything either, though. Like, I don't think he's like some genius. Yeah. But I mean, I was kind of like vibing with him and what his plan is. Not like I'm on their side necessarily, but I feel like he knows what's going on.
Yeah, and I think the case for him being stupid is that he kind of seems to imply that his plan, it's like, you know, it took me 17 years. I came up with this plan. I'm going to marry Arianne Martell to Viserys Targaryen, and he's going to conquer Westeros for us. Bam. We got
I think he's smart, and I do think he has more going on than people, like there's definitely going to be, he has like irons in the fire and like things going on, and he has an information network clearly. I think his biggest problem is, so if you compare him to somebody like Littlefinger's biggest strength in the series is versatility. That man can move on his feet like nobody's business. Sometimes he just does things to be chaotic, right? So he's always, and I just think Doran is just way less of a flexible thinker. So he can be really smart and project really far into the future and have all these plans. And I'm sure he has contingency plans and stuff. We haven't seen him enough to know exactly, like he doesn't know the Quentin's dead. So like we can't see him react to that. Like we've purposefully been held back from his point of view.
Well, we don't
know
that
long.
Quentin's dead, Kyle.
Fuck off.
Quentin's dead.
Okay. Kyle took care of it.
but I do just think that like whenever we see him have a plan, his plan has been there for like 10 years. That is funny. Yeah. So I just think that he's going to ultimately not get the type of stuff that he wants because of his inability to think as fast. Like he's just like thinking in such like small steps. Like he's like, oh, well, now we have to like send somebody there to know what's going on. And he's going to get my boy Balon Swan killed and wins, which like point against him. Yeah. Dumbass.
So
I actually completely agree with you, Kyle. Like, I think he is intelligent, but it doesn't seem like he can adapt very quickly. Mm-hmm. It seems to be the vibe. I don't know. Quentin's definitely dead. I need to be clear. I have to say that in every Song of Ice and Fire video I ever film from now on.
I was going to just leave you all in suspense until the end of the Dance with Dragons live show, but yeah, Quentin's dead. I ended up falling on team that I think Doran is pretty smart. I don't know if he's going to end up accomplishing that much, but I think he will. So the reason I am on team he's smart is that I actually think it's kind of thematically lame if he's screwing everything up, because one of his big disagreements with the Sand Snakes is that he cares a lot about like not having thousands of like small folk of Dorne dying as collateral damage. And I just think it's like kind of lame if the Sand Snakes are right in that argument. When he's like, we should be careful and we should consider that, like, I am the leader of a great lord and the actions I have serious consequences to these people. And like, if you look at the people there, like, you cannot tell who are the small folk. I think this is technically a dance chapter, whatever. It's the same plot. And I just think it's really lame if he's wrong. So
I agree.
I think
I also think there's only two lords that I can think of that care at all about their small folk.
He's going to say Edmure Tully.
And Edmure Tully has been slandered by the entire narrative. So we got to have justice for lords that do actually care about the people that they lord over. So
We do. And then there's an Ares Oakheart chapter, whatever. Darkstar shows up.
I actually really like Ares Oakheart stuff in this novel. So
it actually is a good chapter.
I really like Ares, and like I think people, disdain that he had a chapter. And sure, you could have done this book without that. But I think it is so important to George's themes about loyalty and about honor and about oaths, and how like he threw his life away in that moment. He made the decision. He's like, I have been dishonored. And he's the soiled knight. Like that's the name of his chapter. He's been dishonored. He's done this dishonorable thing, and he's actually one of the Kingsguard who does take his oaths seriously, and then he just, in a moment of weakness, like betrays them.
Several moments of weakness.
But like even in the context of that, like he's like, oh yeah, like plenty of the other Kingsguard do this, but like that doesn't matter to him. It matters to him that he is breaking his oath. And in that moment, somebody's attacking Marcella, and he's like, I am going to throw my life away to do. Like it's not even at that point, it's moot. Like he should have lived, but he could not be soiled another way. He could not be the Kingsguard who laid down his sword, which is mirrored with Boros Blount, the worst Kingsguard in the history of Kingsguard, who as soon as they try to take Tommen, he's like, have Tommen. And they're like, no, you're supposed to protect him. And Ares absolutely does not do that. He's like, I will die even if it's stupid.
Yeah.
Because I have to, this is my duty.
Another example of like Ares' big thing is like someone who wants to do like the right thing and be a good person, but is bad at actually doing it, is he thinks back to like some of the Kingsguard, Joffrey's like, yeah, beat Sansa. And they're like, Boros Blount is like, okay, it's clobbering time. Like, and they're like enthusiastic about it. And he doesn't want to. He's like, no, this is kind of fucked up. Like that's a kid. But then he hit Sansa. And that kind of is.
They do say in Clash, like, I mean, yeah, hitting her regardless is bad, but they do say in Clash to set that up that like Ares was the one that would like, he would like do it really lightly and like not as much. And so like he had that in his back pocket for when he was writing later.
He's like, I'm
which is like such an interesting, like I love that detail because it's like, well, you still hit her, but it's like you did it half-heartedly.
And that's everything he does. So like he really, and it's like he really cares about not breaking the like
with his self-loathing,
the chastity vow, and then breaks it a couple times. And really cares about not dropping his sword when like Ariahota, when he needs to be defending Marcella, but then him not dropping his sword is part of what gets Marcella injured. That being said, I did write in my notes, hey, maybe I can't judge Ares until Arion Martell tries seducing me. So I did write that down.
You heard it here first, guys.
Yeah.
New take.
Yeah. I can judge him for the other stuff. I'll judge him for all the stuff, but like, a little bit.
Okay, I'm going to ask you, Jake, and I like don't want to spend too much time on this because I'm actually very aware of how much we still haven't talked about. But who do you think betrayed Arion's plan?
I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't have a good theory. Yeah, I just don't even literally have a good theory.
Bookborn, do you have a theory?
No.
Okay. I don't have an answer.
Read for the vibe. I never have theories.
So true. I don't have like a good answer. Like it could be like it is like a big talking point amongst like who the spy
amongst
is.
Real fans, amongst the people who know.
I was gonna say amongst losers. I actually wasn't gonna say that. I don't know, but
we'll think about that on our 7th reread. Okay.
You could do like 4 or 5. I love that Mitch explained his joke. Mitch, you never explain your jokes. Do you think we're dumb? Like,
cat, I'm doing a live show. Okay, anyway. My cat started meowing at me. You guys can figure that out from context. I mean, we've talked about a good amount of the plot. So back to the Ironborn. They're not very nice, are they?
Actually, I'm sorry. This is relevant. I asked Bookborn to rank the top 5 good POVs,
and I wasn't involved in this conversation. I would have wanted to see this.
Jake, she just doesn't Discord. Like, I don't know what to tell you. But anyway, she came up with like Victarion as the worst as well. So like when me, David, and Jake did this, we all agreed Victarion was the worst POV. And I thought Bookborn was going to go like wild and say Theon, which is not an unreasonable take. But I was like, I think your hatred of Theon is just going to be blinding you. But she did arrive to the the correct conclusion, which the Victarion is the worst. So
By the way, for those, I don't think we just had like the top 5. It was specifically the top 5 most morally good and most morally evil. When he said the worst POV, he did not mean the worst written.
Yes.
He meant the person who's the most evil.
And not most innocent. Because apparently
she did the same thing as me. She was like number 1 Bran, number 2 Sansa. And I'm like, no, we're misinterpreting the question.
You had Brienne 1 instantly, I assume. Bookborn for most good.
I
don't think she did.
Okay.
I put Ned and then Brienne.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to talk about this more for the dance one because the original Discord conversation was with David. Hashtag I'll be defending Daenerys quite a bit. He thinks Cersei has a case. I did read the dance chapter where Victarion burns a bunch of people. That dance, like Victarion is actually his most evil in the dance chapter.
Is worst.
Yeah, he has the.
I think Cersei just has mitigating circumstances of being like consumed with grief. Like she's still awful.
But
there's
when I was
for awful.
I was like, man, I forgot how many people she sends to Qyburn and like how screwed up that is. But I still was like leaning Victarion. And then
I think Cersei was all in our bottom 5s, right?
Yeah, she's the second most evil for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Theon, we had number 2.
But then I read the dance chapter where Victarion captures a slave ship that has like a bunch of people going to brothels and has all the guys drowned and then sends most of the women to be salt wives. And it's like, see, I'm helping you. Now you'll just have like one person to serve. And then takes the 7 who he finds most hot and burns them alive to like, as a favor to Makoro to be like, see, I can also honor the like R'hllor.
This is the argument I made to them when they were saying Cersei or Theon was worse. I don't remember what. I'm like, Victarion's the worst. I was like,
I had Victarion the worst
of all the terrible stuff he does.
Yeah, I was like, I don't even think I questioned it. I think I put Victarion as the worst immediately, and then I was like, I don't know, is it Cersei or Theon? I'm like, he's crazy.
So, for the record, my take when I was only having this conversation with David, and I was like, okay, so Victarion is the most evil, and he was like, no, Cersei's the most evil, and he was like, I'm taking this like I've read it way more recently. I'm vetoing you, and I was like, okay, but I was skeptical, and then Kyle came in and was like, Victarion was right. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm moving him back to worst. It was POVs only. In terms of most evil generally, ironically, there's quite a few people more evil than Victarion, which is impressive because he's pretty evil. Speaking of
in Feast.
Yeah. Go.
I was just gonna say, as much as like so Victarion, I really like, not like as a person or like just like to read about, just a fun guy. But I actually think it's legitimately one of the most badass moments in the series when he just catches Ceri's blade in his hand. And I'm just like, dude, what a badass.
I have a note for that because that led me to Google. That led me to Googling something, which is unconfirmed, but I think it would be really funny. I Googled, does House Ceri have a Valyrian steel sword? Because I think it would be really funny if House Ceri had been handing down that Valyrian steel sword for 700 years and Victarion stole it and was kind of like, I'm more of an axe dude, and threw it into the ocean.
That would be funny. Maybe we'll get that reveal and wins.
There is literally negative supporting evidence because presumably if it was Valyrian steel, but he had a metal gauntlet, so it might have still stopped it.
Yeah, I think we can believe that if we want. If
my
we
head
say it enough and we write it on enough Reddit posts, it will trick Google's AI to believe that it's true, and thus it will become canon.
Okay, my headcanon for now
that's the Jacob's method.
Yeah.
You can't say headcanon, you just have to say canon so we can trick the AI.
My canon. In my I believe,
canonically, Valyrian still
I was still dishonest. I am going to choose to believe that House Ceri has had that sword, and it's a Valyrian steel sword that they have passed down the generations, and it is their most prized possession. And Victarion was too dumb to notice it was Valyrian steel, and was just kind of like, I'm not a sword guy, and threw it into the ocean. I think that'd be really in character.
It would be. That's like the Dothraki Sea kind of stuff.
That was a cool battle. I'm like, I cannot lie, wearing full plate armor while on like doing sea warfare is pretty badass.
It's incredibly badass. Like, I'm just like, wow, what a guy.
Yeah.
I hope he gets murdered terribly, but until then, what a guy.
And also, considering the other people get stabbed and he doesn't drown, you could make the case that it's actually optimal and that it just feels more scary, but he's getting around. So you make case he's actually not being smart, but being like going about it in the way that is more optimal, while being badass. I have
What do
a
you think
note.
of our boy Euron?
Euron, so he's pretty evil. He's all. I actually have a note. I was thinking of doing this comparison because I was thinking of like who are the most evil human characters that I have read in like any books. And two of the ones that came out in my top 5 are Euron Greyjoy and Kutan Rovo from the Dandelion Dynasty. And I'm almost like, I almost want to make a video about like how these are like the 2 most evil people I can come up with, and see Euron's conversations are still interesting. And he can still like talk to people and not be like in an evil way and be charismatic. He does not need to be like, yes, and then I shall do all of the murder.
I'm sorry. Mitch is a very distracting human being, but I just have to say, can the Lord of Lights fire melt Valyrian steel beam should become the series' more pertinent question is an 11 out of 10 comment. It is truly astonishing, Mitch, and I must tip my hat to you.
Anyway, Euron's more
Do either
interesting.
of you get that comment? Like, I
Yes,
have to know.
yes, I understand
Okay.
that comment. Yes.
Okay.
I like how one of the first things we hear about Euron in this book is Aerion is like is comparing him to Balon, and is like, well, by comparison, Balon is just so noble and great in all these ways. And it's like, geez, the Ironborn are fucked. Like,
hey, Roderick the Reader is a good dude. You know,
that's true.
Just
he's cool.
Reading his books, doesn't want the Ironborn to be out there doing sus shit.
Yeah.
Also, I am a big Dagmar Cleftjaw fan. I really hope Dagmar is fine. He's my boy. Got a cleft jaw.
He is cool and good for him. The King's Mood is awesome. The show ruined it. And it's really just not like the Ironborn is not a good sign that of their 4 candidates, the 4 Greyjoy candidates, obviously Theon isn't a candidate at this time, but he's like in hindsight a candidate. Of the 4 Greyjoy candidates, Theon Greyjoy is the second best.
I was thinking when I was making my bottom like 5 worst people list, and I was like, man, the Greyjoys, something happened over on that island, because like, why are all of them on my list?
I'm trying to think. Yeah, Theon is better than Victoria.
By far, he's like for sure.
and yeah, no, Aeron's crazy. Yeah, okay, yeah, for sure.
Well, like, Aerion wasn't a candidate, I guess, for like because he's like.
Oh, are you talking about like Balon?
I'm talking about of the people who are like could make a claim for the Seastone chair, which are at the time is Asha, Victarion, and Euron, and then in hindsight, Asha's like actually Theon like arguably has a better claim, and we might be able to delegitimize it. So I'm counting those 4 as the 4 candidates, and it's like of the 4 candidates, Theon is like clearly second best, which is tough. Like it's not a good spot to be in.
I love Aeron, by the way. I feel like I said his name weird.
What? Oh yeah, we talked about this. We disagree on this so much because this is
we do.
Insane.
You were like when I was reading this, you could not believe this. I love his POVs, man. Fascinating.
There's not. Let me just tell you, the drowned god in his watery halls. It's watery and it's drowned.
I really like how George explores religion, and I think his chapters are so interesting from a religious perspective.
I agree, but I just hate that religion, and I hate that man, and I hate his thoughts, and I hate his damp hair. Which the first time I read the series, I thought it was damn fair. That word just didn't work for me.
Words never go right for me, so seems normal.
You know,
I've been doing that the entire time.
Okay, I'm gonna run to the bathroom real quick.
Okay. That is, I guess, a good idea. So, who were your bottom 5 most evil? What was your order? We need to know.
Gosh, I don't remember. I don't. Maybe I screen captured it.
I need to talk to this with this.
You gotta talk
David.
to Kyle because he'll remember. He asked me like late at night, and I just did it off the top of my head. I remember my top 5 good characters more.
Okay, sure.
don't
What are your
know.
top 5 most good? They aren't in. Well, one of them. Well, 2 of them are in Feast.
I think I said. Well, now I feel like on the spot. I think I said. I remember I said Ned and Brienne.
Yeah.
Oh, and then I think I put Davos.
Yeah.
And
that is
then
my top 3. That is my top 3 as well. Not in that order, but
well, I think that was the order I did.
yeah. So I went Brienne, Davos, Ned.
I see. Oh, I misheard you. Okay, yeah.
But
so
I like
we
those
top
3.
3 in a different order.
Yeah.
And then I said, why am I blanking? What other
probably
POVs would I?
Probably John or Sam. Because
those are the 2.
Yeah.
I put Sam, John. That's how I did.
Okay.
I did Ned, Brienne, Davos, Sam, John. And then it was like, oh yeah, I forgot Davos like cheated on his wife and stuff. So like maybe he shouldn't have been there.
No, Davos.
high.
All right, I'm gonna make the Davos. So Davos did cheat on his wife.
That's where I put him initially.
Yeah. So I posted this in my university book club, and someone was like, Davos is way too low, and I was like reading Dance, and I put in the Davos case. Davos does things that like he believes will get him killed because he thinks it's the right thing to do. I think more than like anyone else. So even Ned, like his beliefs did get him killed. But when he was backing Stannis, he didn't think that would kill him. And if he knew that would kill him, like he might have just left to Winterfell. Davos, might have to bring up my examples, but he does. The main one is he rescues Edric Storm. He doesn't even like Edric Storm.
No, I mean, he does a ton. That's why I put him as 3rd for me, like above Sam and all that stuff, because I do feel like it was also for me, like actively doing the most good in terms of like actively making the biggest, like his effect on Stannis arguably is going to have such a huge overreach in Westeros that I feel like that kind of negates some of maybe the less savory personal decisions he's made.
Yeah. And I'm kind of like, he does have, like, I think this is also why I have Sam below John. Because like Sam is nicer than John, but John, I think, again, chooses to put his life at risk and go through hardship when he has the option not to, because it's the right thing to do. And I mean, like, even John choosing to go to the Night's Watch is a reasonably noble thing to do. And then obviously in Storm, when it's like he could become like the Lord of Winterfell and really wants to and chooses not to. I have a bunch of Davos examples. It's like, okay, then I have Stannis sends him to White Harbor and Salladhor Sand bails, and he very easily could go with Salladhor Sam, but he goes to White Harbor anyways, like thinking it will likely lead to his death. In Storm, like you could be like, it's bad to be like, I'm going to kill Melisandre, but he has a pretty good reason for believing Melisandre
is like, I hate that girl. So like, you know what? It's not going to be a point against.
And he goes to kill Melisandre fully expecting that to lead to him being burned alive. So anyway, that's why I have Davos too. Anyway.
But we're only talking about POVs.
Yes.
So I feel like people keep missing that we're talking about POV only.
Oh, yes. This is POV only. In general, for most evil, it would be like Euron and Ramsay would be the 2 most. Brienne still might be 1. I don't know.
Bran? Why do I keep hearing
Brienne. Bran is not the most moral person.
I keep hearing Bran, and you were talking about the most evil. So I was like,
oh no, most good. I was going for the other side for most good. Anyway, for most evil,
his brain is working fast.
Anyway,
we have not discussed Jaime.
That is true.
I've been waiting the whole time.
So Jaime and Cersei both kind of fall out of love with each other in the series, and I think the contrast is very funny.
Incorrect.
Because, well, Cersei in her head kind of thinks she is, and her reason is he grew a beard and he doesn't look like she does anymore. And Jaime's reasons are a little bit more complicated than that. Go on. You said incorrect. Follow up. Continue.
Cersei was never in love with Jaime, but Jaime was in love with Cersei.
Yeah, I mean, like Cersei believed her kind of screwed up version of love, but like they both stop thinking of themselves as in love with the other person. But for Cersei, it's just because like Jaime grew a beard. And
it's also because Jaime is no longer reflecting her.
yeah,
Like Jaime has now found like he's re-questioning things about himself and is no longer going to reflect her back at her, and that is going to annoy her. Like he is, you know, standing up and disagreeing with her, which I don't think is something that happened a lot previously. He has decided to, you know, change a lot because of what happened in Storms, you know, his relationship with Brienne, like changing how he views himself or projects himself.
yeah. Like for an example of like how much he like stands up to her, the most sympathetic character in the universe in this book does mention that if he had found Arya, like after the whole wolf aspect in book 1, he would have just like murdered her because that's what Cersei wanted. That's like how much he was not going back against what Cersei said.
I do want to just say, like, Leanna sent me like a 10-minute voice message about Jaime Lannister before I got to Storm of Swords. Like, because and Kyle knows this, I just over and over again was like, I understand that you guys love Jaime, but I will never forgive him for pushing Bran out a window. And there is nothing you can say to me to make me change my mind.
Oh, this was so funny. Yeah, I didn't either. I knew your mind.
No,
I was like,
didn't. Like in defense, Kyle, you did not try to change my mind about this. But Leanna, like for 10 minutes was just like saying all this stuff. And it was like, girl, you should have just waited. Like, I didn't think that's what you thought, Kyle. You were just like, I'm just gonna just not say anything and just
trust the process. When you said that at first in A Game of Thrones, my reaction was, this is gonna be really funny when she changes her mind. Like, that's going to be very personally satisfying to me. And it was.
So funny. So it's just funny when we see him like contextually, like his journey in Feast is so interesting. And just him getting that letter. And like when I read it, I was so convinced he was going to go back. That's the best part of reading that chapter for me with Jaime, is when she's like, come defend me. I thought, well, he's still going to go defend her. And when he's just like, nope. And it's so just like, so, and I think, is that also the chapter where he looks out the window and it's snowing and it's like, oh, winter has come? That whole thing, like that chapter is just like top to bottom, one of the best things I've ever read, because you're like, winter is here for all of our characters, both metaphysically and physically. And it's just one of the best things I've ever read.
I like it. So he says something in his internal monologue in this book. He thinks he will always be called Kingslayer. And he's like, never Golden Hand or Golden Hand the Just or just Golden Hand. And it's like, how cool would it be if just at one point in the series, he was like getting announced because he was showing up at something, if A Dream of Spring existed. And the announcer like maybe calls him both, but is like, and next, like Jaime Golden Hand of House Lannister, and like he actually wasn't like, even if he just doesn't have the Kingslayer attached to his name one time, that would be extremely cool. And I have a note that he was sad he didn't find Shagwell or Pig, and I was like, that's okay, your girl Brienne got them for you.
But Zalo is still out in the world, and he was last seen going towards Old Town with some of the other folk. So I don't know how that's going to come back, but there's no way he doesn't come back and find Zalo at some point. Zalo's the one that chopped off his hand.
Yeah. I got it mixed up because I was thinking like Vargo Hoat chopped off his hand, not Zalo, and I was like, oh, Vargo Hoat died very painfully.
No, Zalo chopped off his hand, and he's like one of the only brave companions that's still alive, and we don't know his whereabouts, along with Chiswick, or not Chiswick, Urswick. I don't know how to say his name. I know the collection of letters because it's not a real name.
I'm sorry. I have to bring up this one for this plot generally. Did you believe it at all when you read this and they just like hear Davos is dead? Like that was kind of weird. Like I didn't really, that was kind of a weird one for the split, was kind of like Cersei just hears Davos is dead. It's like, yep, Lord Manderley killed Davos.
I'm gonna call someone out here, so people in the comments can go tell this person I said this, and I'll say it to his face. Alan thought that was like real, I just think that's very funny. No, you didn't, because you're not silly. Alan said he's like yeah, I was reading A Feast for Crows the first time, and I was so mad because they spoiled the death of a character that isn't even in the book, and then he was alive, and I'm like, Alan, you believed them? And he was like,
So
yeah, why
I
wouldn't
will.
I? I'm like, that seems
Yeah, because I
absurd
remember,
to
I think
believe.
I immediately told you, there's no way he would have died off screen, so clearly it's bad info.
But the thing
Yeah.
is, I will say, because of the split, the problem is that if a very major character did die in the middle of Dance, it'd be hard to go about not spoiling it. So if the plan was to have, well, I mean, if a Red Wedding happened, but the first book wasn't following the point of views for the Red Wedding, people would hear about the Red. If Storm was
think
split,
he would just think of that structurally. You think about Sanderson writing The Sunlit Man, and there's information that character has, but he writes around it because he's writing it knowing that he hasn't written those books.
I know he would, but I think that gives it more credibility. I think it's very obvious that if you were reading the bind up, and presumably you'd have I presume the order is Davos hears that he's going into the dungeons, and Lord Manderley is cut off his head, and I won't eat until I see his hands, and then you hear the news and be like, okay, obviously they didn't kill him off screen.
Yes, that's how it is. Yeah,
the split it does give some credence that you could be oh well, they can't do that, they can't show his death, but his death is a significant event, and it's just was the plan to kill him. So I do think the split makes it more understandable to believe it, compared to if it was one book, it would be even more obvious.
But I just think when you're reading it, you're no way he would kill Davos in this book like that. That just it just seems silly to me. I don't get anybody. There was not I was 15, I didn't have a brain yet, and my one brain cell was Balon Swan is cool, and Davos isn't dead.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing.
In the Jaime plotline, I really like that it explored the River Lords post Red Wedding, and this is a little bit in Dance too, where I feel post the first arc of the series, we're getting really more into the secondary lords of the realm. You get way more about the Northern Lords in Dance, and then you get way more about the Riverland Lords and the King's Landing nobles and stuff in Feast. And I think the dynamic of all these people is super interesting. Shout out my boy Jason Mallister. Cool guy, trapped up in Seagarden. And the Brackens and Blackwoods. What did I say?
Seagarden.
It's Seaguard. Oh, I'm just dumb. I was just mixing Highgarden and Seaguard together.
Yeah, I almost. At first, I was wait, am I wrong? Because surely you would know the name of the castle. But I'm pretty sure it's Seaguard. Anyway, I had to check because normally I would just assume you're right. And
that would be a dangerous assumption because I talk fast and I don't mince my words. But yeah, I just like all the stuff with he has Peck with him, and he's learning about the Riverlands and talking about how the Brackens are dumb and just hating the phrase. All the stuff with the phrase and Jaime are just peak.
Yeah, it's really good. I was going to ask you something. Do you know, I think it's probably just written in a way Edmure is just reacting to the song, but the actual line is, Edmure, Jaime has the guy start playing the Reigns of Castamere, and Edmure seemed to see the man for the first time. No, not him. Get him away from me. Was that?
I know.
Yeah. Why is he reacting particularly to that specific? It's Lem Lemoncloak, right? I know who it is.
No, Lem Lemoncloak is a soldier. It's Thomas Seven Strings.
Oh yeah, I got it. It's the brother of the banger singer guy. But
yeah, so the reason he's there is because he is a plant.
I figured out why he's there. I mean, I assume he's spying for the Brotherhood of Banners. My question is why is Edmure reacting so strongly to him?
So in it would have been I think Storm of Swords, but it might have been Clash of Kings. No, it's Storm of Swords, where they reveal that Thomas Seven Streams was the singer that started the whole floppy fish thing with Edmure because he couldn't keep it up with the he has bastards and stuff, and then he couldn't keep it up. And then there was a singer that sang about a floppy fish in taverns, and it really upset Edmure, and Catelyn, I think Catelyn mentions it at one point as like he hates. It's well known that Edmure hates singers, and then in the the Brotherhood Without Banners POVs, you learn that he was the one that did the song, and so like it's just a callback to the fact that he's the guy who talked about my
thought it was
stamina.
weird because when I read it, it sounded like he was like terrified. Like it sounded like he was like scared, and I'm like, why are you scared of this singer? Is this singer?
Yeah, I think that's just how you read it. I think he's like more angry, but like if you don't have context, it's gonna sound
yeah. So I read it as no, not him. Get him away from me. When it's no, not him. Get him away from anyway. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I had to ask that. That was a note I left, and I was like, ask Kyle this. So Gemma Lannister, I guess, kind of Frey. It's actually like kind of cool.
Love Gemma Lannister.
She might be the coolest Lannister. I mean, Tyrion's
like,
cooler.
Well,
but
Tyrion's
in terms
cooler,
of like as a
like,
person.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. Also, like Aemon Frey is just such a dunce. Like just the biggest blowhard dunce. Like because he's a Frey.
I have this document. It says I have the Riverlands.
Yeah.
No, it says you have Riverrun. Shut up. Yeah.
This is like she has a monologue that is like one of Bookborn's favorite monologues. She thinks
I
about
was
it all
just
the time.
gonna.
Is it you smile like
talk about
Garyon
that?
and fight like Tig, and there's some Kevin in you, else you would not wear that cloak. But Tyrion is Tywin's son, not you. Is it that by any chance?
And I told him once. Yeah. I think what makes really Kyle mad about the Broken Man speech is that I didn't mention that and then talked about this speech for like 2 years.
But this is also a great speech. I'm just like the Broken Man speech.
I have quoted that speech in like 4 of my A Song of Ice and Fire videos. It's one of my favorite things I've ever read. I love it so much from top to bottom, what it says about every character and how they react. Yeah. It's so succinctly.
She didn't remember the character's name that said it. She just calls them Jamie's aunt.
Yeah.
And I was like, who says that? She's like, you know, I don't know the name. And I'm like, I know.
I'm going to be honest. I forget
I was
the
like,
name
can you
of the
tell me her
Septon who
name?
did
And
the
I was like,
Broken Man
no.
speech.
Like, you're just asking
Maribald.
Septon Maribald. Yeah. I think it's the Septon.
No, it says so succinctly, like, the dynamics between the Lannisters. I just love it.
Yeah, I agree. It's a great line.
And then Tyrion threatens to execute Edmure via catapult if he doesn't give up the castle. Yeah, Jaime does, and is like, that was pretty Tywin Lannister-esque. And I can't lie, that was a pretty good plan by Jaime. He was.
I think it's informed by the fact that like we know how much Jaime has changed and how he's like relying on his reputation to get through that.
Yeah. But I think in the context of he's trying to not have to storm the castle and get a bunch of people killed, like I have no problems with him threatening to catapult Edmure in that situation. And it's just kind of cool to be like, they're sieging the city and Blackfish is being very stubborn. And they have Edmure hostage. And he's like, Edmure's probably less stubborn than Blackfish. Like, he's clever. He's more. Cersei did not do anything nearly as clever as that plan.
That's true.
Cersei would never. Well, I mean, even if Cersei was smart enough to think of it, Cersei would never like trust that Edmure wouldn't then like immediately betray her. But also she wouldn't think of it.
Yeah, the important thing to remember is that Tywin just treated all 3 of his children so terribly that none of them were able to really reach their potentials.
Yeah.
I also
Dad of the year, Tywin Lannister.
I also have a note that Jaime keeps sending people to take the black. Like he keeps letting them surrender and take the black. And that when Jon comes back to life about halfway through Winds, he's going to get some like people signing up for the black who are like kind of useful.
The people so there's a lot going on there, we think. So like we have the very important to all 3 of us concept of Robb's will. Who knows about Robb's will? The Blackfish. Who has the Blackfish been holed up in Riverrun for so long? I actually don't remember their names. The old guard guy and the steward, and they take the black, and so they're gonna go where Jon is, and so this is a legitimate way for resurrected Jon to learn. I don't think that's actually how it's going to be how he learns, but it is like a potential way. But then also the Blackfish is in the wind, and I am much of the theory that he is going to appear in the prologue of Winds somehow trying to rescue Jane from the caravan.
Okay.
So we have a confirmation that Jean Westerling is in the prologue of Winds. Not that she is the prologue character, but that she appears in the prologue.
When you said Jane, I was thinking Jane Poole, and I was like, I don't think
Westerling.
That timing works. But Westerling, that absolutely does work.
Yeah. So like, and then so Forley Prester is the person that I think is going to be the point of view. Who's the guy who's leading the caravan to take them back to Casterly Rock, and like Jamie keeps doubling the guard because he gets worried. But then we have a lot of hints about the Red Wedding 2.0 happening with the new Frey wedding that's going to happen at River Run, and that's why Thomas Seven Streams is potentially there spying so that somebody can let them in. And then we also have this caravan leaving with Jane, and like they obviously have vested interest in getting Rob's widow back. And the Blackfish leaves. There is the whole thing about Jane's hips, which is that's just a typo as far as I'm concerned. But there's a bunch of sus stuff happening in the Riverlands. Bookborn has no idea what I'm talking about with Jane's hips. Did I ever explain that to you?
That is not true. We talked about this.
Okay,
I don't know what you're talking about with Jane's hips.
Okay, so in either the first chapter of Storm of Swords or the end of Clash of Kings, when the first chapter of Storm of Swords with Catelyn, she meets Jane Westerling, and she specifically talks about her hips because she's a mom and she wants Rob to have good grandkids, and she's like, she got childbearing hips. And then when Jamie meets Jane Westerling's, like after the Blackfish like leaves and they go in Riverland, he says that she's like a skinny girl with no hips. And people were like, the Blackfish took the pregnant Jane Westerling through underneath and escaped with her, and that's actually Jane Westerling's little sister pretending to be her, which I don't think in and of itself could not be a theory. But George has said that the hips thing was just him. He just forgot that he had mentioned her hips being childbearing hips earlier.
Okay. Yeah, I had not thought of that at all. But I also think, I was like, that would have been a plausible theory. I mean, we already have a Jane involved in a fake out, and then it's like, never mind.
I'm not saying there isn't some like, we don't know where the sister is. And there's like some tomfoolery, like the fact that they take so long to like let them in, and then Edmure is all like, he like Edmure changes when they let him in, like he's all smug. It's pretty sure they have some sort of plan. Now, what the plan is what people have been thinking about for a long time. But I'm very invested in this plot line. It's like that because it all connects to Rob's will, and everybody in Greywater Watch. Let's take things back, baby.
Yeah. Okay, I have another thing for Jamie Cersei, because in this book, this is actually, we're pivoting somehow back to Littlefinger. Actually, we need to pivot to Littlefinger. This is good. So Cersei early in this book is like, we need to hire Littlefinger back as Master of Coin. And I'm like, stop trusting Littlefinger. But then Jamie thinks in himself as Littlefinger as a Hand of the King candidate. And it's like, okay, you tricked Cersei. Cersei's dumb. You tricked Jamie. You're good at tricking people.
That's the thing, though, is that this is the best, not the best, but one of the most interesting things about Littlefinger is how well he gets in people's trust. And a theme for tonight is the show's stupid because they just have Littlefinger being the most suspicious person of all time. He has this weirdo hoarse whisper, like he's literally going to just start tickling you or something. And he just comes up and he's like, chaos is a ladder. And only the good, the most worthy, whatever the and I'm like, that's the creepiest, weirdest thing for a person to say. Nobody would trust this man.
Do you know what I think the funniest in this entire book is? We're pivoting to the Sansa plot because we talked about Littlefinger. Do you know what I think the funniest line in this book is? I don't know if it's actually the funniest, but I laughed out loud. Let the porridge fly.
That is not the funniest line.
I just thought it was so funny. I don't know why. I just pictured it.
I was expecting more, Jake. I'm not gonna lie.
I thought we're pivoting to Sansa.
First of all, there's no way that Robin Aaron says the funniest thing in any book. Like that's not true.
But I didn't think it was funny because like his solution is he's like letting people fly, and I was just reading it, and they're trying to get him to eat porridge, and he's just like, let the porridge fly, and I'm just like, I found that funny. Anyway,
Nimble Dick is funnier.
I have a legitimate question for you of what you think is going on. So there's the entire thing where everyone comes up and talks to Littlefinger, and Lynn Corbray causes a scene, and then they leave, and Littlefinger explains why this is actually all to his benefit, and says like, and is like Littlefinger, like Lynn Corbray is like in his service. I was unclear if Lynn Corbray is metaphorically in his service and that he's like, Lynn Corbray, I can get him to do what he wants and he's easy to manipulate and is doing things that I want him to do. Sansa interpreted it as he's paying Lynn Corbray. Do you think, I'm actually not sure which one it is. I'm unclear on whether Littlefinger meant it as like, Lynn Corbray will do what I want him to because he's very predictable and easy to manipulate, or I pay Lynn Corbray's salary, he'll do what I want him to.
I think it could be either. Like, I don't think we actually have enough information. I would say, like, my read on it is just that, like, Lynn Corbray is jealous of his brother. Like, Lord Lionel got the lordship and stuff, and he just has Lady Forlorn, the sword. And so, like, he's just kind of like a troublemaker dude. And I think Littlefinger's a troublemaker dude, and Littlefinger shows up there with no allies, and he, like, I'm sure he promised him things, but he was just like, hey man, I got a plot to get all these guys that hate you, they're gonna be gone, brother. Here's a bunch of money, here's a bunch of boys, here's a bunch of lordships in the future. Let me concoct my plan. And then he's like, all right, I'll do that. Whereas like Lothar Brune is like specifically in Littlefinger's employ, as in like takes a salary from him. So I just think it's like a little different.
I don't even know if he did that. Like, I don't know if Lynn Corbray knows that Littlefinger thinks Lynn Corbray is working for him. I think he might just be like,
oh, no. They're in cahoots. I fully think they're in cahoots.
Okay.
Like, I think that's pretty clear. That was such a weird conversation to have otherwise. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought so. And it did come back in the Win Sansa pre-release chapter when Sansa's like, wait, he really seems like he like hates Littlefinger. Is he a double agent? Is he a triple agent? And I'm like, does he know he's an agent? And I thought it was like a plausible interpretation that Littlefinger just like took this guy and is like, this person is incredibly easy to manipulate. I'm going to like, he'll do the things that I predict he will do. And I can use that to my best knowledge. Sansa chapters in this book are really good.
Really good.
Like,
yeah, like all the stuff with identity in this book, which we haven't talked about. Like, I really love that in these two books about how like all the chapter names are different and they like cycle through stuff, and how, Sansa becomes Elaine and Arya's name changes all the time. And like we mentioned with the Soil Knight and all of these things, it's a really interesting way of playing with identity, which we will talk about more in A Dance with Dragons chat, which has my favorite aspect of this. But yeah, like I thought the whole Sansa plot was so good, and I don't understand why people don't like Sansa. It just, I don't know.
So this is definitely my favorite.
As someone once commented, I like
so.
Sansa and Catelyn more than Littlefinger. So I completely agree with you. The best thing about Feast and identity, like you just brought up, particularly for me, is how the Starks have lost all their identity. Like that is really the book where it's like, okay, Arya and Sansa no longer have their Stark identity. People think Bran and Rickon are dead. Robb is dead. Ned's dead. Catelyn's dead. That's it.
And I mean, Catelyn doesn't go by Catelyn. Catelyn is Lady Stoneheart now. Like, even if she's alive, she's lost her identity.
She is dead, like, for all functional purposes. I just think it's super interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, the contrast with, like, Arya and Sansa at the same time, as they're, like, both starting out with chapters under their name.
Super, it goes
and obviously,
together.
I'm assuming that's one of the cool things with Dance at the same time, because, like, Theon is doing the opposite, where, like, Arya and Sansa start out as Arya and Sansa in the chapters, and Theon starts out with Reek, and then Theon eventually ends up being Theon chapters, and Arya and Sansa get further and further away.
Like just the last one, and which, by the way, I was so emotional by it. Like when I turned the page and I saw Theon as the name, boy howdy, was I
promise in my Dance with Dragons note, every time we get a Theon chapter, I have a note about what it's called. Yeah. So
what's very funny about the first Sansa chapter is that was Alian or whatever. Alian, whatever. I didn't immediately Elaine. I didn't immediately recognize it as Sansa's fake name. I don't know why. Like, just in my brain, I saw that chapter and I just like I was like, oh, who's this rando? Because like in my defense, in Feast, you get a lot of random.
You don't read names.
POV.
Yeah, but you don't.
I don't
you also
read
just
names.
don't read names.
I was just
I don't
like,
either.
I think really what happened in my head is I just always thought Sansa. So like other people were calling her that,
Yeah.
but in my head it's just Sansa. And we had gone a lot of random POVs. So I get that POV and I read like the first paragraph, and that's when it might have been like the first sentence, and all of a sudden I snap and realize. And when I say that was like an emotional moment, I was just like, the chapter headings changed. I don't know, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's used to really good effect.
And especially like with, I think it's the last Sansa chapter for this book, we get Littlefinger's plan to like marry her to Harry the heir, and he gives the plan as like, you know, she show up to the wedding with like a direwolf and like get her identity back. Like that's a pretty cool image of her like the plan of like taking her identity back and then using it to retake Winterfell, which might have already been retaken by someone else at that point. I want to mention because Sansa does let something slip, and I don't think Miranda Royce noticed, and I think Miranda Royce might end up being a shill with Sansa, so I don't know if Miranda Royce would mess her over. But they have the thing where they're going like down the Erie to get back down to the Bloody Gate, and it's like you have to like stay on guard and like refer to like Littlefinger as your dad and like not Ned Stark. But obviously she wasn't thinking about like Jon, and Miranda Royce brings up that like Lord Snow is like the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, and she's like, Jon Snow? And it's like, it'd be very weird for Elaine to know that the bastard son of Ned Stark's first name was
this is
Jon.
going to come back. They keep mentioning how like cunning and clever Miranda Royce
specifically was mentioned like that Miranda Royce is very observant. So I think Miranda and Royce, like there's a good chance she noticed that, right?
Yeah. I don't think it might not necessarily be that that's the only piece of evidence. Like right now, she might have just been like, oh, that was weird. But something might happen in Winds where she slips up one more time. And then those two things together, Miranda's like, I know who this is kind of thing. But I don't think that was like a fluke. I think that's going to go somewhere. I do need to start wrapping up, though. Like I told Jess, I would only do 2 hours.
I do as well. I was just thinking that.
Yeah.
Should I say things rapid fire?
No, I think you should tell us what your rating was, and so we can yell at you for a little while.
Oh, okay. I gave this book 9 out of 10. I like it about as much as I like a Game of Thrones. I like it a lot more than I did on Reread, but I still like Clash more and Storm way more.
It's going to get a 5-star on Goodreads, so I will accept this.
It is going to get a 5-star on
you.
Goodreads. Yeah.
It's better than Christopher Rocchio's magnum opus, Shadows Upon Time.
That's true. I agree with that.
Here's the thing about Feast for Crows. We're wrapping up. One of my least favorite things that people say when they talk about Feast of Crows and A Dance with Dragons is that this is an example of George becoming unwieldy. This is an example of how if George has lost the plot, and even if we got the other books, it would never finish in 7 books because he doesn't know and the plot's gotten too big. And I need to talk about how much that annoys me, because Storm of Swords is like the most insanely paced book. Like I said at the beginning, every time you hear an event and you're like, that also happened in Storm of Swords, like what didn't happen in this book? Everything gets completely changed. And then you have Feast and Dance, which just put so much important character work and bring us all of our characters really to the brink of despair. Like think of Tyrion in Dance with Dragons, man. It's just like some dark stuff. And the thing is like, I'm not saying George couldn't write a terrible Winds of Winter. That's like a possibility. But what I am saying is if Winds of Winter was paced like Storm of Swords, we'd be totally on track for a 7-book wrap-up. And
I agree with you.
I just feel like people think this is impossible. And I'm not saying that the opposite is impossible. There are some authors who just get so unwieldy they have to keep writing. Like Robert Jordan. Like I read 14 books of Wheel of Time. Like it got unwieldy. Like it could, but it also doesn't have to. And Kyle and I have been reading everything George has ever written this year. And George knows how to write a short novel that's really good. So I just feel like it annoys me when people use this to act like he can't write anymore.
I support everything that you said. And I also think like it's so easy. Like people extrapolate outwards in weird ways. Like it's so easy for it doesn't, I don't have any doubt that the series could be wrapped up in 2 books because we're starting to coalesce. And also like at the end of Feast and Dance, there's like every storyline is fixing to go nuts. Like even if he had a slow writing, like even if he had like, so when I say a slow writing pace, I don't mean the pacing of Feast and Dance, which like the pace of those books is slow in the sense that like not a lot of events are happening.
Totally.
But if his desire to show as many like of the travelogues of the, because like the pacing of Game of Thrones is like people just move. We don't see Catelyn going like she's just there and then she's in King's Landing. Like we don't see the movement, and that he really gets into the movement later on in the series. Even if he was to do that, and he's like, I gotta show, because like you know, young Griff takes Storm's End, and then he was like, oh, I guess I have to show you guys how he takes Storm's End. Even if he does all that, there's so many events happening that the book has to be crazy. It has to be doing a lot of very big narrative work. You know, characters have to die. Like maybe not all the ones people think. Like a lot of people think Barristan Selmy is going to die in the first like 5 chapters. I'm like, that doesn't make any narrative sense. I just don't think that's going to happen. But the way that everything is left off, it would be bad storytelling, which we know George is not a bad storyteller, to not have a bunch of crazy things happen in Winds that would then theoretically leave us in the exact spot we need to be. And I think that's the big thing, is that like he said he's finished like, you know, several arcs, like he's finished Tyrion's arc and stuff. I think he wants Winds to be exactly where he wants Winds to end, so that we're set up for the finale, and he just can't get himself there.
So I'll say one. I do not want. I know it's a random note. I would be angry if Storm's End was taken off screen, because Storm's End has a note in World of Ice and Fire that has never fallen by siege or storm. And I'm like, when John Connington is like, I'm going to take Storm's End, I'm like, that sounds like Cope. You'll probably succeed. You probably have a good plan. I want to know what that bloody plan is.
Yeah, sorry. This is part of what I was talking about earlier, and I just got distracted. Mathis Rowan is one of the people that's going to Storm's End. That was what I was thinking in my head, but I was mixing it up with the previous Siege of Storm's End. So Mathis Rowan and Randall Tarley, and I think somebody else, are the force that is sent to Storm's End to take from Stannis. And we know that trickery is going to be involved to take Storm's End, and that John Connington has friends in the Reach. And so I just think it's going to be Mathis Rowan, and he's going to somehow betray them of some way.
Yeah, they have to take it somehow.
Sorry,
my opinion on this.
I have to go.
Yeah,
my family just got home, and I said I would be done.
Okay.
For
goodbye.
So
now I can disagree with all her opinions, and she can't yell at me.
You can say all these sorts of things, but
I have like 5 minutes before my wife
agree with everybody.
Aside, so.
Thank you for coming on. I will wrap it up in the next 3 minutes. I think if we get Winds, it's going to be really damn good. I also think if we invent immortality, then, and so it's like George is definitely finishing the series, like he can live to the age of 3,000. There will be more than 7 A Song of Ice and Fire books. That is my opinion.
I could agree with that. I agree with that. I don't think, like, if I was a betting man, that the series would be finished in 7, knowing George's. I just think that it definitely could. Like, I think, like, it's pretty easy to see the through line.
I forgot what I was gonna say. Anyway.
No, Ben, it was going to be like flashbacks and stuff. Like,
we sadly didn't talk about Arya. Arya was really good. I can send you my. I didn't go through like my notes because there are 2 other people. If you want, I can send you my notes on a Google Doc of everything I had.
Sure, I would be interested in seeing, because it was fun hearing your like notes and stuff. But I forgot how long. Like when we did the ones before Storm of Swords, you went through all your notes, which just takes longer. And I was just like, oh yeah, like I got stuff I got to do.
But yeah, I think I don't technically have like what my original rating of Feast was, and I don't have a rating at all for Fellowship. But I think this is my most improved book on Reread. It's close with Fellowship. It's this or Fellowship. I was going to mention also for people who, as a worthy like comparison, that Wheel of Time book 7 is quite slow, Wheel of Time book 8 is quite slow, Wheel of Time book 9 is quite slow, and Wheel of Time book 10 is ridiculously slow, and then suddenly Wheel of Time book 11 is faster than most of the Wheel of Time books. So people can slow the pace and then speed the pace up again. I'm going to now let Kyle go. Thank you so much, chat, for being here as well. Thank you, Kyle, for being on.
Very fun
as well. David, I will talk to you and both Kyle, because this will be the man on for Dance with Dragons with me and Kyle.
Exciting. I'll make sure to slot out more time.
Have a good day, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Oh, I almost said leave Stadia instead of on screen.